This is actually such an easy slam dunk for Lycan, right? I don't think that any organization has ever been banned from Twitch just because of bad things going on in the organization. I don't think this analogy is good for Lance. Oh, okay. Hold on. Real quick. Okay. I think Lycan is going to lose this debate, okay? So I just want to point out like a quote-unquote debate tactic here, okay? Because there's one being employed right now, okay? I think I'm going to get triggered listening to this. Come on, Lycan. Lycan, he's running you around so much. Lycan has already actually ended the debate. If he focuses on this point, I wonder if the Serfs would talk to me. I don't think he would talk to me about this debate. I'd be super curious if he would. Oh, Lance said no. You're saying that the military shouldn't advertise on Twitch because of reasons A, B, C, and D. And then you want to go through, well, let's look at A. Let's look at B. Let's look at C. Let's look at D. Now, if you're not aware of that structure in your head when you're going through the argument, then what actually happens is, and this is essentially what he did to you. Okay, well, let's talk about A. You want to go, after a while arguing A, you're like, oh yeah, what about B, C, or D? And then you say like, okay, well, let's hop to B. And then when you're on B, you're like, okay, well, what about A, C, and D? And you're like, okay, well, here, hold on. Well, what about C? And you're like, well, what about A, B, and D? And you're like, okay, well, hold on, let's go back to A. And you're like, okay, well, what about B, C, and D?
Do you know why Mike from PA calls himself Mike from PA?
Because he's Mike from Pennsylvania?
Or the same thing, why he calls himself Mike from PA on Twitter?
Because he's Mike from Pennsylvania? I don't know, what do you mean?
Because he doesn't want to reveal his full legal name. He uses it as an alias.
Then why would he
run
get
where I'm going with this?
Public office?
Right, but he doesn't use that in his Twitter or his Twitch or anything, and he does that with intention.
Pretty easy to like Google around and see like the very public news articles.
I'm never going to contest that, but that's still like that's his prerogative, right? So by putting that on your stream, that's doxing him.
Nah, I don't buy into that one. Not even remotely close. That somebody who runs for, if he wanted to be like completely invisible, why would he put his first name and the state that he's from as part of his name? What? Hold on, wait. What you just said was, hold on. Okay, hold on, one sec. Because I'm trying to do this conversation better. I was about to say a lot of really, really mean stuff. Okay, because what you just said was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. Okay,
so all right,
yeah.
Give me Super Saiyan dust.
Yeah. Okay. No. I'm not gonna do that. Well, because like if so, like I want to not be doxxed. So what name should I use online? I'll use my real first name, and then I'll put the state that I'm from in my name.
Sure, dude. Sure. I'm not going to contest with you that it's not a good way to go about it, or that it's even like comical to do it that way. But that's, regardless of all that, it doesn't matter.
You're accusing me of doxing, which is pretty serious, and I'm quoting just literal public articles. You're saying that he's gone to great lengths to conceal his identity. He literally put his name, occupation, and location as part of his name. It doesn't seem like he's going through a lot of effort to, and he also lists publicly a lot of what he's done. I worked with a lot of public campaigns. I worked for blah, blah, blah. I think he's even mentioned he's tried to run for public office. I think he's mentioned that on my stream before. Like, Jesus Christ, if you're trying to hide yourself from getting doxxed, you're doing all the wrong things. Like, I think I can make that argument. Like, my name is Destiny.
We're going in a circle, dude. I said at the start of this, you could characterize it as cartoonish as far as like how little he's hiding it. Fine, but that doesn't dispute the fact that he is still hiding it, and that was still intent, right?
I don't know that, and it's impossible for me to ascertain that based on the information listed. If somebody's name is going to be Mike from Pennsylvania, the lawyer, I actually wouldn't make the assumption at all that he's going to hide that he ran for public office. I would actually assume the exact opposite. Like,
okay. Well, I did speak to him after this, though.
Okay.
And he said, yeah, the reason I use Mike from PA in Central Planning Committee is because I don't want my real name revealed.
I don't believe him, actually. 100% I don't believe him. Because I know people that don't want the real name revealed, and they don't put their real name as their handle. What? Like, you must understand how absolutely fucking stupid that is. Please tell me you understand that.
I use Lance, and I don't want my full legal name out there.
Sure, but like, if you were... I don't even want to guess your state. If you were Lance from Ukraine, okay, sure. like the electrician, you wouldn't advertise that publicly. Like, oh, I'm Lance from Ukraine, the electrician. You're like and then say like, oh yeah, I've ran for public office in Ukraine. You're like begging for people to try to figure out like more information about you.
I'm not contesting that it is like it's like there's it's easy to find, sure, fine, but like that doesn't change the fact that I still have a right to do that as a person. I could still say I still don't want to, whether or not I went about that in like the most foolish way possible. I still do have that right.
This is like unimaginable to me. I don't believe that Mike cares about this at all. I think that he's just really ass pained over like getting me talking about him, and now he's like trying to throw shit at me. But like,
He's not throwing shit at you. I am, man. I'm the one talking to you.
Wait,
Really,
he's
what, you're
already,
asking
no,
me?
oh man, dude. He's already got a Medium account that's called @Michael Bayer, and it's connected to his Mike from PA account that also links to his twitch.tv/central committee thing.
Sure. Like, again, it's all foolish. I'm not disputing
No,
any of
that's not
this.
foolish. He's literally doxed himself.
The other thing.
No, come on! You're doing the thing that I just accused you of doing. This is why I call you guys spineless. Like, this is literally it right here. What the fuck? I'm
What?
getting gaslit in real time right now. He has a Medium account that is called @Michael Bayer. It links to his Twitter. It links to his Twitch. It's all right here. Like,
Sure.
So since the US Esports is US Army Esports is currently a thing on Twitch, and Lance is the person who wants them off of Twitch, I think it only makes sense, since he's acting for this action to be taken, for him to go first before we go to Lycan. Try to stay within like 2 to 3 minutes. If you just want to say a short statement, that's fine. Floor is yours.
So I'm going to start my story in 1969. This is not going to be nice, but that's when a newly elected Richard Nixon appoints Henry Kissinger to be his Secretary of National Defense. The two of them concoct a plan to start an illegal bombing campaign of Cambodia, the likes of which result in, and by the way, this is an illegal bombing campaign that did not have congressional approval. This was an illegal bombing campaign that did not have even knowledge by Congress before they began it, that resulted in, within the first year, the deaths of 100,000 non-combatant civilians in Cambodia. These were two countries, by the way, Cambodia and Laos, that had never attacked the United States. They never invaded the United States, and yet the United States wrought this attack of carnage upon them. Their bodies were blown into pieces, and after 5 years, approximately 500,000 dead non-combatants basically lined the streets. The chaos ensuing from this, the refugees and the starvation, led to the rise of the Khmer Rouge, which is the worst genocide in Cambodian history. The United States, in sum total, dropped 7 million tons of bombs on Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia during their campaign. This was, at the time, the largest amount that any country had dropped in terms of warfare bombing in human history. Now, the United States is not only the largest bomber in human history, but it's also the largest manufacturer of bombs in human history. They account for 80% of the global arms trade. They are the largest war profiteers. They are the largest war distributors of arms. The reason I bring this all up is that in order to defend the position that the United States military has no business in any capacity being present on Twitch, the streaming platform, I'm going to establish and defend the following things. Number one, as an organization, both the United States military, all its branches, and by extension the military-industrial complex, are responsible for a history of atrocities, crimes against humanity, mass murder of civilians and non-combatants, propping up of brutal dictators, arms trafficking, war profiteering, torture, rampant sexual assault of men and women, infliction of mental illness and addiction, and suicide. Number two, that the United States military has a history of recruitment practices aimed at teenagers and lower-income Americans, known as the poverty draft. This phenomenon was expanded through the Bush's No Child Left Behind Act, and it grants military personnel full access to American high schools, as well as powerful propaganda networks combining with the film and television and video game industry to market directly to kids. Number three, the many Americans who join the U.S. military do so because it provides them with societal benefits that they're unable to afford otherwise. College education, healthcare, housing, food. Even after risking their lives for their country, veterans are forgotten. Over 1 in 10 homeless Americans is a veteran, and veterans are 2 times more likely than the general population to become homeless. Number four, the United States military has an abhorrent system and a systemic problem of sexual harassment and rape of its own members that by definition would disqualify them from being permitted on the Twitch platform. Number five, if we were to judge the presence of the U.S. military on Twitch by the same standards that we apply to any other streamer or organization, especially one with a large presence outside the platform, it would be impossible to interpret this debate topic as anything other than fantastical at the sheer audacity of the proposition. Now, there's no way for me to try and summarize the horrors and atrocities committed by the United States military in the time allotted here, so for brevity's sake, I'm going to highlight quickly as I can the things that have occurred in the past century. To even feign that this comes close to scratching the surface would be to do a disservice to the dead. However, for whatever reason you think that what I'm about to list is exaggerated or fabricated, because frankly, it may be the first time you simply heard any of these facts, I brought sources for everything, which includes statistics directly from the military, official government documents, journalists, Times, Post, etc., famously leaked documents such as the Panama Papers. You can cut me off at any point when I run out of 5 minutes here, but war crimes of the U.S. summarized include the colonization of the Philippines, March across the Mar massacre, the firebombing campaign in Japan, which included hundreds of thousands of civilian casualties in Tokyo, the dropping of atomic bombs on 2 civilian locations with high population density for maximum civilian casualties, the U.S. occupation of Haiti, the U.S. occupation of Cuba, the U.S. marine invasion of the Dominican Republic, the U.S. backed coup of Honduras, the U.S. backed death squads of El Salvador, the mass rapes of Okinawa by American soldiers, the Cincinnati massacre, the Mascari massacre, the No Gun V massacre, overthrowing the government of Iran with military coup and installing a dictator, 25 years of brutal dictatorship, bombing of the Dominican Republic in 1965 to prevent a democratic election, overthrowing the first and last democratic government of Guatemala, which led to massive atrocities, overthrowing the government of Indonesia for resource extraction, use of chemical weapons, napalm, DDT to bomb strategically destroy food crops in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, the My Lai massacre, civilians at gunpoint died in Vietnam, the illegal bombing of Cambodia, which again left 100,000 dead in its first year, supporting the Indonesian invasion of East Timor, which led to the largest genocide in their history, invasion of Panama, which resulted in thousands dying, to capture and try Noriega for crimes that he had committed on CIA payroll, invasion of Iraq, which was a direct attack upon their infrastructure, sewage system, and power lines, which guess what, is biological warfare,
Sorry to
bombing
interrupt.
pharmaceutical
What's
plants
it
in Sudan,
called
which
when you
resulted in
just
thousands
like spit out a fuck ton of facts to make yourself seem like you're right?
Technically it's called a Gishgala, but this is their opening statement, so it's kind of what they're supposed to be doing, I guess.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I was just curious what that was. Wasn't related to this. Right.
Although he's throwing a lot of like kind of bad shit in here, but okay.
deaths from a lack of access to medication, bombing of 400 civilians in Baghdad in a bomb shelter, bombing of thousands of surrendered soldiers and vehicles, and 3 miles of carnage in what is now known as the Highway of Death in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq again, over 500,000 to 1 million dead civilians in the second invasion of Iraq, and the subsequent power vacuum that created ISIS. I will end by saying torture of Guantanamo Bay prisoners and the torture of Abu Ghraib, which included mental, physical, and sexual torture.
Okay, I'm going to allow now Lycan to have 5 minutes. I see the clock, and I gotta go get something quick for the debate. I promise it's worth it. Can you just promise not to interrupt Lycan while he's doing his thing?
Absolutely promise.
Okay, be right back.
You're muted, or I can't hear you.
Thank you, sir. You can let me go on and ruin my time. The United States military stormed the shores of Twitch in the summer of 2020. Recruiters from various branches of the armed forces established official Twitch channels and began streaming and entrenching themselves on the purple shores with community building and engagement. And without hesitation or an original thought, the gray unwashed broke the crust that bound them to their gaming chairs to slam their fists on the Mountain Dew stained and pube-riddled keyboards and decry the barbaric hordes that dared invade their e-space, that presumed to indoctrinate America's youth with their insidious giveaways and entertaining antics, giving them free keyboards one day in exchange for an unbreakable debt, or shortly after their 18th birthday, they would exchange that keyboard for a rifle and hop on a C-17 to some foreign utopia to plunder oil, extol the virtues of neoliberalism, and slake the bloodlust of the blood god. And when the deed is done and the debt is paid, they would return home to start a Twitch channel of their own, continuing the cycle. But no, this would not come to pass. The righteous fury that spammed the United States War Crimes Wikipedia article. They posted vicious and super witty messages. LOL, kill any babies lately? A leading force in this charge was my opponent, a man who bragged about his bitingly clever war crimes emote being lobbed like grenades that would vanquish these would-be press gangers, who praised an article about the situation that proffered nothing more insightful than the obvious, that the recruiters were there to recruit, and nothing more clever than a few lines about Generation Z having better things to do than join the United States military. You have unsurprising taste in journalism, my Canadian comrade. The military preys on the impoverished, Lance will say. Dodge that quicksand of falsehood, faithful viewers, as I offer you the dry, moss-free rock of truth. The military sets recruitment quotas based on population density and prior year numbers of for each region. The military is trying to indoctrinate the youth, you will exclaim. Take my hand, you watchers, and remove yourself from the toothless beast of this claim. The military recruitment commands care little for the long-term investment, as they are beholden to incredibly stringent monthly quotas. The 18 to 34 demographic makes up half of Twitch's viewer base, is what they set their sights on. But be on your guard. That subject will resurface as Lance seeks to claim that the exposure of youth to the military is tertiary indoctrination and a vector for corruption. Hark, Lycan, he cries from in the midst of this wretched bog, the light of his lantern shining, a false beacon of rationale. What of the predatory nature of recruiters outside Twitch? Careful, my companions. The light would lead you astray. It would lead me astray too, if I wasn't prepared to differentiate between systemic problems and inherently broken and unfixable constructs of our society. I'm looking at these war crimes that Lance has listed off. We did not come here to debate whether or not the military has done past transgressions. We did not come here to debate whether or not they would in the future be culpable for such things. We're here to debate whether or not those on Twitch ought to be exposed to the military. Nay, whether it is proper for them to be exposed to the military and whether or not their exposure to said military will have negative repercussions on their life. We will talk about assault within the military. And I'm sure we will also talk about how it is a little bit higher than that on American college campuses and how the military of the last decade, especially within the last 5 years, has made exponential leaps in addressing this issue. We will talk about how the military has a significant system of benefits that do in fact attract a lot of people. But again, where the lies about poverty being those who are targeted will be brought up, we will actually talk about the actual distribution and that the exposure to the military and familiarity by living closer to the military is more likely to determine whether or not you are recruited and choose to join the military than your social status. But regardless of this, as we wade into this quagmire, we must remember one thing, that even if at the end of this debate, I have convinced Lance that the military is a viable option for the United States citizens and it provides a good opportunity for people to either improve their system or engage in a method of career vaulting that allows them to have a good start to life, even if he agrees with me, he will never, ever admit it because he cannot, in front of you, claim that the military is a viable option and they ought to be recruiting people because he will be called a bootlegger, as I'm sure I have been called many, many times. And I will use the last moment of this to baseline the audiences watching this and say, hey, I'm not a fucking Republican, so knock it off. I yield my time.
You want to begin, Lycan?
I think the war crimes thing is, I don't want it to dominate a lot of this debate because I don't believe that that's the really pertinent part. So I think we should address it first. At the end of the day, you're not going to get me to disagree with you. The military's done some bad shit and the military probably in the future will be responsible for bad shit. One thing you have to acknowledge is that there are some things that, such as the secret bombing of Cambodia, is a great example of something that is not really the fault of the military. While the military did execute, that was a policy that wasn't guided by the primary factors within the military. They were tools of that execution, were they not?
They were. Would you apply that same standard to any other Twitch streamer? Would you say that it doesn't matter?
What do you mean?
So if any other Twitch streamer did something that you find that's egregious, obviously there's going to be a bar, right? Like you probably don't think someone like Shane Dawson or Nision has any place on a Twitch platform. They're groomers, right? They actively try and have sex.
I actually don't know who those people are, but
okay,
I would agree with that.
Really famous YouTubers, sure. The really famous YouTubers.
But we wouldn't say YouTubers shouldn't come to Twitch.
So would you say that there's a bar that is set at some point where you're like, there's a set of actions that either as an organization, because there's such a thing as like streamer houses, all right? So there could be, or companies can stream on Twitch as well, like, you know, or government entities. So would you say that there's a set bar of standards where you qualify that someone shouldn't be allowed on the platform?
There's a bar where I would say someone shouldn't be qualified on the platform. Would I say that you're
affiliation? But not an organization.
But I mean, you know, we're not talking about NAMBLA here, right? NAMBLA starts streaming on Twitch. We've got my vote. Get them the fuck off of it, right?
So, okay, so what if there was a streamer house, all right? And it's got a whole bunch of famous people, XQC's in there, you know, Trainwrecks is in there, whatever. And I'm not mentioning those names because they're going to be associated with what I'm about to bring up next. But what if you found out in that streamer house, there was a whole bunch of sexual assault going down in the streamer house? I mean, their presence on Twitch is known as like, you know, this entity.
Right.
Oh, this is actually such an easy slam dunk for Lycan, right? I don't think that any organization has ever been banned from Twitch just because of bad things going on in the organization. I don't think this analogy is good for Lance.
I mean, we had the giant Me Too movement within the gaming and streamer community last year. And during that time, there were organizations where people were found out to have done some pretty awful things. Those organizations were not barred from Twitch. Do you think Methods should not be allowed on Twitch?
Correct. Nice.
Do I think Methods? We're gonna I don't know who that is. And then you're like, I don't know who that is. What did Methods do?
Oh, okay. Hold on. Real quick. Okay. I think Lycan is going to lose this debate, okay? So I just want to point out like a quote unquote debate tactic here, okay? Because there's one being employed right now, okay? So when Lance brought up Onision and another person and said they were grooming, Lycan understood the point that he was making, and Lycan just granted him that. Lycan started with, I don't know who those are, but sure, if they're groomers or whatever. It's not Lycan was like, yeah, if they're groomers, then they shouldn't be allowed on the platform. Notice how Lycan didn't know immediately, but he assumed he's bringing them up in good faith. These are bad people. They shouldn't be allowed. But now, when Lycan brings up an organization that he says has committed wrongs, and then he says, should they be allowed? Well, now Lance is like, well, I don't know anything. Well, can you tell me that? Now Lance is diverting. Instead of just granting to Lycan, like, okay, yeah, sure, maybe those are bad organizations that did bad things. What Lance should say is, well, if they did bad things, then those organizations should be banned from the platform. That's Lance's correct response. That's what he's logically committed to based on the premises that he's laid out so far.
Method is an organization, and so there were members of that organization.
We'll see where Lance goes from here, but I feel like right now what Lance is doing is he's asking a question to see if Lycan says something that he is going to find a disagreement so that he can trip him up on this analogy, and then he's not going to be forced to answer. But ouch, that's a really, really rough start for Lance to pull out like the disingenuous bullshit immediately. But we'll see.
That were accused of things. There were members of various organizations. There were members of Riot. Do you think League of Legends games shouldn't be prominent on Twitch? High-end figures in Riot.
So if the organization itself, all right, has a problem within it in which its statistics seem to denote that is not only committing acts of sexual assault upon its own members, as is the problem with the U.S. military, for example, I would...
Oh my God. I don't know if Lycan prepared for this debate or studied or what, but that's also... I'm sorry, hold on. I'm just hitting on the start here. The rhetoric is very good. Bringing up Riot is also a key counter to his point. Riot was condemned for a lot of this. Should Riot be banned? Right? And this wasn't just one person. This was a culture of this at Riot. Should League of Legends be banned? Should League of Legends?
Yes, that organization doesn't have a place on Twitch because there seems to be systemic problems going on within the organization
so
itself.
You say that. You say the systemic problem of sexual assault against its members. But would you, again, hold... if the University of Maryland had an esports team, and the University of Maryland, as in the university...
Oh... This is a good another example, but Lycan should have made him forced him to answer the Riot one. That was a really, really, really good example.
Yes, at the University of Maryland, we're streaming on Twitch. You know, every college campus has a sexual assault problem that they're trying to deal with. Would you say no colleges should be allowed to stream on Twitch?
If those colleges had been involved in the global arms trade as well as the global suffering...
Well, hold on. No,
now he's pivoting. Oh my God, he's such a snaky little fuck. Oh, I hate him so much. I'm hoping... Listen, okay, I don't know if Lycan is like the most fucking skilled debater. Fuck, I hope Lycan can hold him down here though. God damn. He's so... Now, because what Serfs did was he provided like some, like, what felt like not only a necessary, but a sufficient condition for saying somebody should be banned from Twitch, because he brought up Onision, because, okay, hold on, I'm trying to follow the rhetoric here very close so I can point out like why this is so disingenuous. The people that Lance brought up earlier were people like Onision and somebody else that were like just groomers. Onision wasn't involved in like the global arms trade or anything like that, and then Lycan is countering, oh, well, look, hey, here's like two really good examples of where this stuff has happened. And now Lance, he knows his argument has been defeated, now he's going like, well, hold on, are colleges involved in the global arms trade, huh? Right? Rhetorically, Lance looks strong here because it's a good point. They weren't involved in global trade, but like logically, it's totally inconsistent. Can Lycan hold him to that? Can Lycan point that out? And it sounds like Lycan is, because now Lycan is countering back.
Yes.
Well, again, wait, we're gonna slow this down a little bit, okay? Because Lance is employing a lot of dumb fuckery here that I want to be able to identify and catch. Okay, sorry. Let's go back.
The sexual assault problem that they're trying to deal with. Would you say no colleges should be allowed to stream on Twitch?
If those colleges had been involved in the global arms trade as well as the global suffering
hold on.
of millions of human beings, yes.
Well,
if you're
again,
talking about...
We're talking about all these different issues, but again, these are...
I'm trying to put them to the same standard is what I'm trying to do, right? I'm trying to say, would you apply the same standard to the U.S. military that you would apply to any Twitch streamer or organization? And my answer to that is yes, I am trying to. I think that they have a right to enforce a TOS. It's a private company.
Oh, and now Lance just pulled it way back from the example. Come on, Lycan, you got to bring it back. Oh no, Lance managed to slither away from these, because these examples brought up so far just completely and totally destroy this party argument. But I don't know if Lycan is gonna. Why does this fuck
that the U.S. military can be on the program, or sorry, on Twitch or not? And we're going to get into recruitment down the road, so we'll talk about that later. But if the amount of like war crimes that the organization had performed, which in my opinion so far are amongst the worst of any developed nation, why would I want that represented on this platform? Like
because the military represents so much more than the war crimes of the past and the potential of the future.
To a lot of people, it represents death, destruction, and genocide.
Again,
well, first, that's, oh my God. Oh God, he's such a brainlet. The U.S. Army is literally just genocide, 100%. That's all it is. Oh God. I think I'm gonna get triggered listening to this. Come on, Lycan. Don't, Lycan, he's running you around so much. Dude, Lance danced away from where he was like crushed. Like, oh my God, he danced away from this, all of that so well. Oh no. Come on, Lycan.
And maybe that's where this portion of the debate ends, is the fact that you cannot hold every member of the military responsible for it. And you can't even hold the military as an entity itself, which is constantly changing, constantly evolving. You can't hold that entity itself responsible for every action of the past. Like, you hold the people responsible for executing it. You remember that this happened and you try to in place policy and enforcement of certain things that prevent this. A thing I wanted to bring up is that I know your feelings about the police, and the military has a significant, as far as war crimes on an individual level, the military has a significantly better reputation for handling those who fuck up and do wrong than any police entity in the United States. It's one that holds them to great account. The military imprisons and then kicks them the fuck out. Now, are there occasional cases of people trying to cover it up? Absolutely, right?
Oh, he's walking. The Surfs, I think, I already had the libel because Surfs like, well, I'd say the police shouldn't be able to recruit on Twitch either. That's how he's going to respond to this whole monologue, I bet. But we'll see.
We're going to have that. But overall, they take it way more seriously than the police does. So if we're talking about an individual level and whether or not that entity at our, the normal person's decision-making capabilities within that entity, how they act and how they police themselves, the military is not bad.
In terms of like self-policing and self-reporting, the amount of sexual assaults that are occurring currently in the U.S. military by its own members has been increasing dramatically, especially towards men. If you told me today, Lycan, or if I brought this to you, if I was like, there is an entity or an organization in which 80% of its female members have experienced sexual harassment.
Wait, hello?
And 25%, 1 in 4, have experienced sexual assault, we would not be having this talk. You would be like,
we
yes,
would be having to talk about,
place.
yes, they have a huge systemic issue and it needs to be unfucked. And my understanding, if you've read the same papers I have, a recent report from the Pentagon in, I believe, 2019, it said that reporting is on the rise and they are believing that is to be with the efforts they're trying to make.
And Lycan needs to go back to the college thing too. What about all college campuses where how many women report being sexually assaulted?
An environment where people are comfortable reporting. And that
they also say that there's an enormous problem of underreporting. The stats that we have, which are already outrageous, are the ones that are coming from people who are brave enough to come forward about these stories.
Yeah, the issue of sexual assault in the military.
Sorry,
go ahead.
You go.
So that was from Lycan, so we'll have Serfs respond. Serfs, then back to Lycan.
Okay, so when it comes to that, if that was an ongoing problem and one that was demonstrably getting worse in terms of the numbers going up, especially sexual assaults of men, I mean, we're talking, I believe it was close to 17,000 cases were reported, over 17,000 cases were reported in 2017. By 2019, that was over 20,000 cases were reported. Now, I know that has a lot to do with maybe a change within the organization for people to come forward. However, if the numbers are currently going up, then that is something that immediately as an organization, it's not something that we take a step back and be like, well, there's a few bad apples, true. But while they're sorting that out, their monstrous problem of almost 1 in 4 women being sexually assaulted, then I'm sorry, they don't have a place on a platform that is going to be used prominently by 16 to 24-year-olds, by the way, because when I looked this up, it says the average age of a 2019 Twitch streamer is 16 to 24. That's 41% of the majority.
Wait, okay, so when I looked this up last, the overall average rates were 24% in the military and 18% on college campuses. Well, 6% is very significant, especially when we're talking about something as egregious as sexual assault and harassment. Again, but as far as the relative numbers, I mean, do you want kids to not go to college campuses? Do you, again, not want colleges to be represented here?
Has nothing to do with me wanting kids to or not go to college campuses. This is the U.S. military. Do I want the U.S. military to exist on the Twitch platform is the question.
Oh, he's such a snake. Dude, Lycan, please don't let him walk away from this. Lycan, this is like... Lycan has already actually ended the debate. If he focuses on this point, you have to make this slimy
and
fuck.
If you want me to hold me to the same standard, right, which you're saying, should universities have the ability to broadcast on Twitch if the university organization has this huge problem? My response is, first, A, they don't have the same problem that the U.S. military does. The college campuses don't have anywhere near as much male sexual assault as the U.S. military does. It is an enormous problem within the U.S. military right now. But on top of that, I would say that if you are asking me if a college campus can also be on the program, then I have to add other factors to it, not just the sexual assaults, but the fact that, yes, they are engaged in and actively engaged in crimes against humanity. which
Again,
again I think would
you
disqualify them from
keep
being on here.
ascribing the crimes against humanity to to every person within the military and to the military in an unjust manner. You're ascribing it to them as we'll go to Kissinger it's a great example. The bombing of Cambodia, these
illegal
weren't
bombing.
decisions. Yes, the illegal bombing, which I guess I have to say this because if I was watching chat, I'm sure I'm being called a bootlicker and a chud and all kinds of things. It was fucking horrible. It was wrong. It led to an incredible genocide, and the country has been not the same since. It's been horrible, and we've done nothing to really fucking fix it, right? That's awful.
Agreed.
We should. But at the end of the day, it wasn't the United States Air Force, the United States Navy that is, as an entity, as responsible as Henry Kissinger is.
So you're using the Nuremberg defense right now in this.
Oh
which is that they
my
were just following orders.
God, that's such a okay.
That doesn't absolve them of any of it. That doesn't absolve any bombers of what they did. That doesn't absolve the 2 people who dropped the nuclear bombs on Hiroshima.
How many of those people are serving still?
How many people are active duty personnel from the war in Vietnam? I would assume 0.
I actually think that's probably true. So again, the military is constantly evolving.
Oh my
It
God,
is constantly
Lycan.
rotating people. I don't think anyone from Abu Ghraib is still in there. I don't think anyone from
would
the
you apply
Master
this-
Fox Company in Afghanistan is still there.
Oh my God.
Okay, would you apply that same logic to any other organization that had
Stop liking.
the same amount of blood and casualties on their hands, right? Would you then say
Notice how he keeps pivoting back to these generalities where Lycan is trying to hammer home a point or figure out would you do this, would you do that, and then the Starks is just backing up to as soon as his condition has been defeated or has been shown to be irrational, he'll back up into another condition or he'll back up into something different because he doesn't want to actually focus on that point anymore. How many times are we going to hear the phrase bloody genocide in this?
say that it's okay for them to be on, even though they did things in the past? In the future, things are going to be okay as long as we give them a chance. Like that, you would never apply that.
I'm not applying that logic. The logic here is that you were again holding an entity accountable.
Remember, guys, there's a lot of good quotes about debating fascists. Okay, they never actually stay on one point. They delight and they make a mockery of any reasonable debate, and they will happily hop from point to point and delight in the frustration of their interlocutors as they try to actually remain rationally consistent. Okay, somebody can find the fascist quote. It's a really good example
people
of
that are no longer there.
That entity has not lost responsibility for its crimes. They don't stop. I would have the same problem if, say, the Communist Army of China wanted to become members of the Twitch, or if the KGB wanted to join Twitch tomorrow. I would be like, well, what about all the fucked up shit that they did? And if your defense to me was like, well, that doesn't matter because those were people who no longer serve in the KGB, but as an organization, they're going to change. Just give them a chance. I would be like, no, holy fuck.
This isn't about the organization.
I don't want them on here.
Changes and gives them a chance. And also, wait, hold on. What do you not want them to do? Is the assumption that if you join the military, you may be involved in a war crime?
Absolutely. Of
Okay,
course.
well, all right, cool. So let's
no.
talk about how many people do you think are actually involved in a war crime that join the military?
If one person is involved in war crimes as a result of joining an organization, that organization is by definition a war crime organization.
Oh no! I wonder. That's a really, really, really bad. I don't think that's a sufficient qualifier. I don't think Lance would agree with that. Because theoretically, we could find hundreds of private organizations where somebody has done something bad at some point in time, or maybe even up to the level of war crime. But we say that entire organization is tainted with that.
It doesn't matter if 99% of the people hadn't committed war crimes, and there's a few bad apples doing a
So,
little
okay,
genocide
so hold on.
inside.
So with that logic, if one policeman is racist, and we don't just for the sake of this hyperbole, we know
Lycan has to stop using the police because the Serfs will gladly say ACAB, even if he pretends not to, over and over again.
that all of the we know that I'm sorry, I have to mute something.
Uh-oh. His earpiece.
Sorry. What was I saying? Fuck. Rage
Talking
don't
about
message
policemen,
me.
racism.
Yeah, so
Rage
we
vote.
know for a fact that all policemen are racist. Or I'm sorry, are not racist. One policeman is racist. He commits a hate crime, kills a black person, right? With your logic, the entire police force is racist.
So you're talking about a few bad apples, right?
No. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
it's-
sure. You know
yeah.
what? Let's go with a few bad apples. Yeah, let's go with a few bad apples. Yeah. But if they
Awesome. So the thing that no one ever likes to finish is a few bad apples spoiled the bunch, as in the entire bunch is now spoiled. So
you want the
yes, that
military
is a
gone?
problem. I would love-
Wait, I like how he tried to take some common meme saying and pretend like that proves an argument. if 3 black people, killed 3 other black people, would you say that makes all black people bad? Like, would you say a few apples spoils, or would you say a few bad apples? And then imagine somebody counters like, well, the entire quote is actually a few bad apples spoils the bunch. So yeah, I would actually. Like, wait, that's not, you can't just, what? There's got to be a name. Is there like a fallacious appeal to popular, like, old-timey saying? There's got to be like a name for this. Wait, what the fuck? That's not an argument.
Love the military gone. I'm a realist. I'm not like, abolish the CIA, poggies. I'm like, hey, by the way, we have a whole bunch of different superpowers in the world, and obviously I would say that they would start to do things that wouldn't be comparable to what I want. But ultimately, if we're talking you and me about our dream world, yes. Do you want people to be killing each other? No. Do you want people to be bombing each other? No.
But you accept the military as a necessity, that you, even in your socialist utopia, snap of the fingers, Thanos snap, America and Canada form
at this time, should every single country get rid of their military simultaneously? That'd be great. That's
no.
That's not the world I live in.
No.
I know. I'm saying that's the fantasy, but that's not going to happen. Of course, yes. I'm pragmatic. I understand that there's a need for U.S. military.
Okay, cool.
Do I think they belong on a platform that is predominantly used by 16 to 24-year-olds? God, no. They have no business.
Wait, that's what they recruit at. What do you mean?
That's what we're here to debate.
Used by them.
Not whether or not they should exist.
I have 2 questions. I've personally developed one for each of you, so it'll be fair. The first question is going to be to the serfs. If you acknowledge the military as a necessity, because of the nature of realism on the world stage, that if one global power just goes away, then other global powers will dominate, unipolar dominance, yada, 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 then if you have a problem with the U.S. Army recruiting on Twitch,
where should they recruit?
Yep. U.S. Army has been missing recruitment numbers for like a very long time now. They have a huge problem with that. They've been investing in a lot of new areas. This is something they're trying to do to solve that problem. And if your issue is young people being looped into Twitch, looped into recruitment of the military, how are they ever going to meet the numbers necessary?
For U.S. recruitment?
Yeah.
To meet their quotas, their quote-unquote quotas?
Well, I don't think the serfs cares if they're...
No, Lycan, let him answer. He's burying himself.
Well, I'm actually happier if less people are involved in the U.S. military.
Oh, no, come on. Make him answer.
But is your question here, because this is actually a good kind of like gotcha, is your question that if you don't allow this to happen at all, Lance, then eventually the U.S. military will cease to exist, which I know you want, but ultimately your pragmatic side is saying then, it
yeah, I'm asking for the pragmatic. If you understand that we don't want just like, if you don't want the United States military to just whoosh, vanish off the planet, then they exist in the current world. We have to engage with them. They have to recruit somewhere. Where should they recruit if not there?
So I think at the base minimum, the U.S. military should not be recruiting in anywhere in which is make
them answer the positive.
Children or teenagers will interact. They should only be able to recruit to people who are 18 plus. Who whatever year you're allowed to become. Well, actually, fuck that. Americans don't let you drink until you're like 21. Whatever year that you're allowed to be legal, when you're allowed to have a nice cold beer, then fuck, that's when you should be allowed to join the military. And then if you want to lower that to 18, fine.
Make him answer the question.
At which point, that's when you're allowed to actually be approached by someone saying, "Hey, would you like to join the U.S. military?"
That's
so.
What's the answer?
I have just a quick follow-up question. So if there was like an age gate on the U.S. Army esports teams, like, hey, U18, click it, and then they could enter, like we have with other types of access online for information online.
Serfs is going to say no because kids lie.
Other things like that for adults, right? Would that be something
you're talking about recruitment, not whether or not they have a right?
No. I'm talking about on Twitch. If your problem is the broadcasting to children, if they put an age gate on it, would that be something that you'd be fine with?
They do have an age gate on it, and no, I don't think anything that has committed the amount of atrocities as an organization.
Oh my God! Just answer the question. Oh my God! Notice how he keeps dancing back. Just answer the please, Dylan. Make him answer this question. It's such a good question.
I'm going much further than AOC. AOC was pointing out correctly the fact that the U.S. Army was using duplicitous manners to be able to recruit children. They started a giveaway for $200 for an Xbox Elite Series X2 or something.
That's not your issue, though. This isn't your issue. Is that they use bad advertising tactics? You don't want them advertising, period. Don't try to pivot to this. You don't actually believe this.
And that giveaway, when you clicked on it, would send you to the U.S. Army Recruitment Center.
So can I address
this?
That
is fucking insidious.
Yeah. So let me address
this. That is beyond the pale. So and that's what she had a problem with. I go much further than that. I don't think they belong on it at all. Yeah.
To be clear, when I'm trying to talk...
So, just to be clear, Lance completely danced out of answering another tough question. This is the second or third one that he's managed to totally fucking, like, slither his way out of.
It's just 2 people are talking, I'm not hearing information. Let me just be clear about that and say that at the beginning. So before I asked Lance his question that I had for him, he obviously should have time to respond to that. So I'll give him some time to respond to that.
Wait.
Okay.
Sorry.
Where should they recruit?
If we're sticking back to recruitment.
Can you hear me?
Where should they recruit?
I'm sorry. I said Lance, but it's Lycan and Lance is like
Okay,
almost
wait.
the same name. I meant Lycan. I'm sorry.
Oh, he's gonna let him not answer. And Lance is like, oh, thank God.
There's a lot there.
Notice how Lance was starting to restate the question, so we could probably think of some other way to bullshit out of it. And then as soon as Dylan moves up, he's like, oh, okay, yeah, let him do it. And then he just dances. Oh God, no.
First of all, okay, let's talk about the age as far as what recruiters can do. Recruiters cannot approach you until you're 18 without, if you're 17, they can approach you with a parent or guardian. But recruiters are everywhere. They are in the high school. They are at air shows. You can walk up at any age and talk to a recruiter. A recruiter is allowed to. Would you have a problem with this is rhetorical, so I am going to have a follow-up to this. Would you have a problem with a 14-year-old at an air show walking up to a recruiter and saying, hey, tell me about that Humvee?
Yes.
Because you just do not want them to engage at all with the military.
Yes, absolutely. And I do not think, by the way, the U.S. military should be recruiting. It's a service.
Okay,
it's not a business. They're not trying to get like
Wait, what? That's just a whole other random stupid thing. You can't recruit. It's a service, not a business. Wait, what do you mean? Even nonprofits fucking recruit. We need people in the military. What kind of a stupid fucking side statement is that?
Yeah.
Or conscription. All right, fine.
He's gonna win the debate. I haven't seen the end of it, but it's gonna be considered him winning the debate because he's not having to answer anything. He's just gonna continue to dance around every single fucking point.
Okay, but work with me here, okay? The kid is asking a question about an airplane or a car, right? There's nothing harmful there. But the recruiter cannot try to get that kid to join. That recruiter cannot approach or engage. So those kids can submit all their information. When I was a kid, I'd see the Navy commercials or the Air Force commercials or the Army commercials. I had a fucking fetish for pamphlets for whatever reason. I had anything that I could call on the TV screen and I could get something sent to my house, I would do it. And that included all the military stuff. And you know what? They would send me it, and that is it. They couldn't do anything with me because when I typed it in, I typed my age, and they couldn't contact me. And if they contact you and they find out you're not of an age where they can get engaged, they say, hey, sorry, buddy, give me a call back in 6 years, right? They aren't actually engaging in recruitment.
I'm curious, do you think Dylan is being nice, or is he just trying, is it just too hard to catch someone? No. I don't think Dylan is letting Lance walk away from this. It's just really, really, really hard to catch this kind of stuff in real time. To be honest, I don't even know if I could catch in real time. I think I have an easier time catching when I'm in a moderator position, but like I have the privilege of like stopping and listening, and I'm not actually moderating. I'm just listening to the moderator and the other two things. So it's possible even I could miss this in real time. Lance is very, very, very slippery. Holy shit, he's so slippery.
Recruitment tactics with these people. You were getting more exposure through Call of Duty and through American media, global media, to anything military than you are here. There's a NASCAR team, there's a football team, they have commercials galore on every channel. So we're removing them from Twitch.
Makes it okay.
Removing them from Twitch doesn't impact them in the slightest as far as a significant recruiting effort. And two, to call that insidious is fucking silly because
oh no, this is a bad point from Lycan. If you say, well, removing it from Twitch doesn't impact their ability to recruit at all, then Lance's counter should just be, oh, well, if it doesn't affect them at all, then they should stop it from Twitch then, and we both agree it won't cause any harm. It's a bad argument.
They can't do anything to you even if you give them their information. So no, AOC was absolutely fucking wrong about that. That wasn't insidious.
Okay, so that was insidious because they were being duplicitous. They were lying about what they were doing. They weren't actually trying to give away an Xbox.
I didn't see anything that said they didn't give away.
Okay,
you had to go to a portal to get the information.
I'll send you the news article.
No, I've seen the news article.
Yeah, so it's not up for debate about whether or not they did this, okay? You can't do that. I can't do that as a streamer, and I'm not trying to get kids to go kill people
I actually would like the article.
I can't do a fake contest for an Xbox or
Wait, was there ever an Xbox given away? Also, I like how Lance also just keeps throwing in those side moral statements like, oh, I don't want to send kids to go murder people. Oh, I don't want to...
They stopped...
the most genocidal organization in human history. Like, he always has to throw in these like really morally loaded statements so that his audience keeps like...
They did as well. Okay, well, I'll send
they
you
stopped
that
a lot of
article.
stuff. They also stopped doing the fucking streaming except for the Army esports channel now. Navy put the kibosh on the thing after all the backlash. After your clever people are spamming war crimes and harassing fucking dudes. Do you think those dudes did war crimes? Like, do you want them to be harassed?
They're part of an organization that does. And yes, it's wonderful that we're getting them kicked off. They do not belong on this platform in any way, shape, or form. If you want to talk about...
Anyway, here are some really funny tanky memes, guys. LOL.
Like recruitment for children, the U.S. military, after the No Child Left Behind Act, has the right now to enter high schools and do recruitment practices. You're right that they can't sign you up for the military without the use of a guardian. That is true.
Why is the military bad career path? Why is the military a bad career path? You don't care if you know there are far more dangerous careers in the military.
I don't know. Let's think about this. Why is the military a bad career path? Well, if you are a VA, you have twice the rate of homelessness than the other people. You have between a 60 to 70% increase in the amount of probability that you'll have addictions to alcohol, addictions to drugs, PTSD.
Does this apply to all servicemen, or does this just apply to people deployed into like active combat? Do people that like join the army and like never even go overseas, do these people have like an elevated risk of like PTSD? Is that true? I legitimately don't know.
No, they don't.
Okay, this sounds like it applies to active duty people.
Veterans there are in the United States alone should be something.
Or people that are active, like different jobs.
Wait, hold on. You can't talk in here. You'll make it biased. All right, I love you.
You also, by the way, if you're woman, have a very high chance of being raped. You have a high chance of being raped. You have a higher chance in a study in 2000.
But Lycan has already brought this up, and he needs to bring up again. Okay, well, should we not let any colleges recruit here? Because we've all seen the college rape statistics, and those are bad as well. And that also forces Lance into a really awkward spot, because either one, he says colleges shouldn't be allowed to recruit, or two, he has to say, well, I think those stats aren't real. And both of those are huge rhetorical losses for Lance, if Lycan were to make him commit to one of those.
2011. Apparently by being raped by a fellow serviceman than you do by being shot by an enemy combatant. That is fucked. That is not something that any...
Wait, but that logically follows. You would probably have a higher chance of almost anything bad happening to you than being shot by an enemy combatant, because so few people deploy. Like, that's actually really, it sounds bad, but that's actually an argument in favor of the idea that, well, not that many people are going into active combat zones.
Young woman should look and be like, this is a good career path for me. Like, the things that they get by the military are the things that you as a society should be providing already. Things like an education that you get in the military. Why not give that anyways? Why not the money we are spending on bombs?
We should do this, and the military provides it. That's not going to help your argument here.
True.
They're not providing it. So we're saying that the military does offer it. The military does offer it.
The military does offer a handful of things. Things that you should be getting anyways, because there's an incentivization. That's what the poverty draft comes down to. People want to get those things.
I hope they get to the poverty draft, dude. It's such a stupid talking about. I used to say this shit all the time, that like, I think the military is unethical because it's a jobs program for poor people, but it's actually not true. And you can actually get dumpstered so hard on this, because if you look up like the recruitment numbers, most of the people that are recruited in the military come from the middle class. Like, the middle class is disproportionately represented in military draft. It's not just like poor people. That's just not true. I used to think it was.
46% of people recruited to go into the military said they did it for post-secondary education.
Okay.
Just because 36% of people did something for post-secondary education doesn't mean they were working poor. Doesn't mean they were poor people. They might have just done it. They might have been middle class. And they might have even been upper middle class. Like, fuck, free college.
6%.
So let's be clear. Okay, so when two people talk at the same time, we don't get double the information. We actually get none of the information. It's wild magic, actually. So I want to be able to. Is there anything you wanted to repeat, Serfs, before
I would like Lance to answer the question as if we live in the world where we do, where those things aren't being provided by the government. So with that being,
I thought Lycan was going to hold him to where should they advertise at? He's not going to ask it. God, I wish he would, please.
Case, why is that where you can choose your job, where you have choice over your job, where you can put yourself in a place that is relatively harm-free, where you can put yourself in a place that is likely to not deploy.
He's not going to ask
which
it.
Will,
he's not going to ask it.
When you talk about the factors as far as addiction, when you talk about PTS, when you talk about homelessness and whatnot, there are other factors that play into this, and many of which are job choice. So where you have a lot of say in where you go, and then you still get all the same benefits of being in the military. Again, I know you want the government to give it, but they're not. So I'm saying, why is that a bad option?
So it's a bad option, again, because you have a very high rate of when you're inside that organization of being sexually assaulted or sexually, sexually harassed. If you're a woman, you also have a high probability of it happening.
So we've reached rock bottom on Lance's arguments. The question is whether or not Lycan can show logically that his conclusion doesn't follow. So now we've moved into the philosophy realm, where we have to just do the pure logics. Good luck.
Already exists in the college.
Wait. Can
not the same?
I want him to be able to finish.
It's higher in the military. You'll get to understand. I couldn't advocate for. The logic of this astounds me. I couldn't advocate for anyone and say, hey, by the way, we can't do anything differently. This is just the way it is. So wake up, okay? And
I'm not saying do anything differently.
This is your only way to do it. You can only go to school if you join an organization which, if you are a woman, you have a 1 in 4 chance of being sexually assaulted. Sorry, that's just the world we live in. There's absolutely no other way to do this. That is absurd. That's not. We don't apply the same logic to anything else in life.
If you were going to say
that.
If you say that the military is bad and because this might happen to you, I say, well, it could also happen relatively similar rates, maybe for women, maybe not for men. If you go to college, that is
Make him answer this. Lance has danced around this question like 15 times. Lycan, please, just make him fucking answer the college thing. Just answer it. Don't let him dance away from it. Dylan, please shut the fuck up. Please, Lycan, please don't forget this. Please, just force him to answer this fucking question.
Salient point that sticks to the fact that, okay, cool, let's move on to the next. If you want to talk about injury rates, okay, cool.
I'm not saying you're not factually. I'm not saying you're not factually correct that people do this because they need to get like an education or stuff. I'm saying that's fucked up and shouldn't be the way. And that's not an excuse.
He's dancing.
That's not like you cannot say
he's not
because you have no other choice to get an
Ah.
education if you are in a certain income bracket that it's okay if you join an organization that may make you kill poor people overseas. That makes it all right.
Kill poor people,
that makes it a
genocide, war
horrifying
crimes,
atrocity. If
horrifying
anything,
atrocity.
it reveals
You
to
are
me that we have
genocide.
something that is
Think about
fundamentally
future
broken.
crimes that might happen.
He's not gonna answer it.
Happen. There probably will happen at some point, but that person is necessarily going to be involved in.
Right, but it won't happen if you just went to school on its own. You would not kill someone in Afghanistan if you just went to a college. And you wouldn't have to worry about that if the $1 trillion that was being spent on the military maybe put some money towards people just going to college on its own. But then we go back to this problem,
military is
right?
necessary and has to exist, and bodies have to come from somewhere to serve, right?
I conceded. Well, it wasn't a concession. You were just asking me, would you get rid of the military like in its entirety? And I said yes. But am I going to do that like a Thanos snap? No, no one can. That's what I want to work towards.
No, but the military exists. We need the military.
Where they're gonna recruit from? Yes.
Yeah,
please.
absolutely. Not as it is today. As it is
But
today,
we
right
need-
now, the United States.
Hold on.
Okay, listen to this. Lycan, no, you hold on for 2 seconds. The United States spends more on its military than the next 10.
I like how Lance gets like, oh my god, dude, he's worse than Vosh. He's such a little snake. He's like, no, Lycan, you listen. The U.S. military, they spend more money than the next 10 nations combined. We've got people starving in the street, and we spend $700 billion a year on the non-discretionary spend or the discretionary spending of the U.S. budget. It's wrong. We should be spreading free education. Like he won't actually. He's just like
Countries combined. It does not need that. That is an overwhelming amount of money that has been
nothing to
spent
do
on the
with
military.
recruitment.
No, it has everything to do with the military-industrial complex because it needs
Oh
to sell
my
weapons
God.
overseas to
We're
kill
not
more
debating
people.
the military-industrial complex. We're
I know, but
debating-
you've got.
Wait, hold on. What the fuck? Okay, this might be really dumb, and maybe I don't know the link or whatever. But like, what is the like Army or the Navy or the U.S. Air Force have to do with like selling weapons overseas or whatever? Like a lot of this is made by private military companies. I don't know what this has to do, and a lot of this is done at the direction of like the executive branch of what the U.S. president says or whatever, in terms of how we, or maybe like what comes to the Pentagon. I don't think the U.S. Army. I could be wrong on this. I don't think the U.S. Army or like the Navy or the Air Force like unilaterally sells weapons overseas. Like, what are we talking about? Wait, what?
Whether or not.
So far off the fact about whether the organization belongs on Twitch. So because we're not there anymore and you've gone down this path, I'm meeting you down this corridor. And on this corridor, this is the truth and the reality of the situation.
This is like buildings over there, man. We're talking about whether or not the military is an adequate career path, whether it's a career path that should be proper to children.
So is a baker, and you're not going to have to kill anyone. You're not
So
going to
is
get
an
like
underwater.
sexually
so is an
assaulted.
underwater welder. So is
Exactly,
lying.
and so that's not an argument for it. Like, here's this horrible organization, this government
no.
entity
The point is
that
that
Back off in a horrible organization again, like ignoring all the earlier arguments. This is like also really, really
high
more
rates of
people are
sexual assault
dying.
and
really standard argument is or really standard tactic that I see in debates is like, even if you go through an argument and you maybe disprove something or something is contentious, you keep bringing up the old points over and over and over and over and over again to give the illusion of having a strong argument every time. It's kind of a gish gallop.
kills people and commits war crimes and atrocities. Why don't we join that? Why don't we join that? Because it's a potentially good career
Do you
path.
think
Even though you
oil
have a high
riggers
chance
should
of
be
like,
allowed to go to Texas?
How do you respond to it? Right now, Lycan needs to be shot. I wonder if the Serfs would talk to me. I don't think he would talk to me about this debate. I'd be super curious if he would. Because I would just ask him like 2 or 3 questions. What you have to do is you have to ask a question. You have to let him ramble a little bit, and then you have to ask again. It's like a 5-year-old when you like tell them like clean your room, and they're like nah, and they like scream around you. You wait for them to time's up. And you're like, all right, are you done? Go clean your room, right? You just have to ask, let them do the little temper tantrum. Wait a second. It's like, okay, ask again. Maybe they'll do another time. And then eventually, if you keep asking, eventually they're forced to answer, right? Or at the very least, they take a big optics loss because people will be able to tell that they're like squirming. Dude, I don't know how there's got to be another way around up there.
Schools and recruit people?
your question should be, should oil riggers be allowed on Twitch? That's what you're supposed to be focusing on, right?
Well, no. Because your reason for not wanting them on Twitch is because you do not want kids to join the military.
I don't want the military on Twitch, period, for a handful of
Right,
reasons.
and you don't want them in schools. So I'm doing it.
That's one of the reasons. Like, and there's a lot of other reasons.
Parallel.
I mean, the war crimes is another reason.
Wait, but they're going through one at a time. Stop dancing around to another reason every time you get nailed down on one.
The sexual assault is another reason. Like I said, if we applied the same standards that we do to the U.S. military than we do to other Twitch streamers, we would not have this conversation.
Again, you would be
like, holy shit, how are we even talking about this? Yeah,
get rid of that. Well, no. To ban them for that would be to treat them as if it is an entity that exists to do that. It exists to put people into harm's way domestically with assaults among themselves.
No, streamer houses don't exist to molest people, but people get molested in them.
Let's Lycan finish his point.
All right, sorry.
Wait, but then the U.S. Army doesn't exist to commit war crimes. There might have been war crimes committed, but Lycan's already addressed this. It's done at the direction of the executive, not necessarily the military itself unilaterally choosing it.
As if the entity is doing it to, like, that is a function of it. That these claims that you have against it are a function of the military. Is killing people a function of the military? Yeah, absolutely. That's going to happen. And we can maybe agree that there are moments where that would be necessary, like World War II, Germany. Reason. Yeah. So with that, again, you are ascribing the actions of the military in the past and the issues of the future to the entity itself. Like, sorry, got tongue-tied there.
Did you think this stopped? They're still doing this. Like, you're still in Afghanistan. You're like, Guantanamo still exists. Like, again, the U.S. military hasn't today as of our conversation.
Is the U.S. currently committing war crimes in Afghanistan? My understanding is just dumping a ton of fucking stupid money there and being incredibly inefficient.
Afghanistan.
What war crimes have happened in Afghanistan?
What's the last war crime in Afghanistan?
Oh, no!
There was a slaughter of civilians in a region. Like, I don't have this information directly in front of me, but there was a slaughter of civilians in a region that had blood on its hands from American and Union soldiers. There was, I
don't know when the last, and I did a lot of like Middle East research and shit. When was the last? I know that there was really bad shit that happened a long time ago. It was like 10 years ago where I remember reading like pretty shit stuff going on, especially in relation to like older Afghan. I thought that the U.S. military was complaining that like army personnel were hearing stories. What was the one of like military people hearing like Afghanistani soldiers like raping children and shit? And they were like, their hands were tied, or they were told that they can't do anything about that. That's just like, that's part of like the local Afghanistan military shit that they weren't allowed. If somebody can remember, I remember reading stories about this. This is a long time ago.
I would have to pull up things. There's absolutely nothing in terms of like Afghanistan is a conflict-free.
Well, you brought up that we're still in Afghanistan. That's not a war crime.
You are still in Afghanistan. I never said being in Afghanistan is a war crime.
Oh my god! I don't know. I don't actually think I can listen to the rest of those.
But
how
also this doesn't.
Can somebody tell me how long this is? He's actually such a slimy, disingenuous fuck. Hold on. What? 2 hours and 30. It's like 31 minutes.
The actual like death penalty.
Wait, is he on the stream with these guys?
As opposed to this weird.
Oh wow, I like how Burgess totally ducked. He read my Twitter DM too because I see the blue check mark, and now he's just bouncing around doing other shit. Oh, they're so mad that Michael Albert didn't crush me. All right, if it's only 30 more minutes, I think I can do it.
Also, this doesn't erase.
Oh, ooh, Russia Today. This is what I remember. Was it 5 years ago? I thought this was longer than that. But yeah, I remember this, like U.S. soldiers complaining that they could hear like little boys screaming as they were being told, or as they were being raped by some Afghan soldiers. But this is a long time ago. Maybe it was like 6 years ago. It was longer? This is what you were talking about? No, not Abu Ghraib stuff. That's different. Okay.
It's the war crimes of the past either is the other thing, right?
It doesn't. And I have not tried to. I have not made excuses for the war crimes. I've owned up to them and said, yes, absolutely. The military has done some fucked up things. That doesn't change the fact that it is a viable career path and that it is not causing harm to children for that to be something that we say, hey, you can go join the military.
Would you apply the same standard to if the Communist Party of China's military wanted to join Twitch?
So this is a question I was actually holding in my pocket for Lycan. It's a two-part question. The first one is, what if the Chinese Communist Party was like, you know what, we want the PLA to have a Twitch department, and they were like, and they did all the things with giveaways and like, hey, we'll have like three Xinjiang made pillows if you like sign up to this organization, sign up to the giveaway or something. And the second part of the question is, a lot of this has been like defending like the U.S. military in this way, defending this or saying like, okay, that is bad. Why is the reason that they should be on Twitch in comparison to like? I would like to ask you that, Lycan. Why should they be on Twitch? Is the second part of my question.
I mean, so if for the China one, that's easy. No, I wouldn't be up in arms about it. I wouldn't be finding the Chinese Wikipedia page. Do I obviously do you think I'm the person that has positive sentiments about the Chinese military, let alone their government? Absolutely not. Probably the level of criticism that Lance would levy towards America's government military, I'd probably have the same towards China's. But that said, yeah, no, if they started a Twitch channel, I wouldn't fucking be up in arms about it, trying to get them kicked off. As far as
you would actually be okay. Okay, well, fair enough. That's you. That's you sticking to your principle. So you would be okay with the Chinese military having a Twitch channel officially?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean,
This
I don't know
is
what
a
their-
Xi Jinping approved statement, by the way. You just got a lot of social credit points.
I think that a more reasonable line you could walk there is say China can have like a military channel if they want, but I would expect that channel would never be shown to people in North America, or that channel would be exclusive to Chinese people. Like that's how that channel would work. It'd be geography locked. But then I would also make the same concession for the U.S. military. Like I wouldn't expect a U.S. military recruitment channel to be shown like in Germany or in South America or in China, right? That channel would also be region locked. I think that's fair.
I don't know what the I actually don't know much about the Chinese military except some past shit. So again, I don't know what
So
the
I would
Chinese
say
military
I would
offers
not. I would not be okay with the Chinese military being on the Twitch streaming platform. But I will say this comparably: the Chinese military only has between 1 and 3 military bases in other countries right now that we know of. The United States has about 700 to 800. So it's
How
not
is that
exactly an
relevant?
apples to apples.
I love how people, what is it, talking out of the side of your mouth? What do you say? Where it's like, now I'm not gonna say that the U.S. is worse than China, but I will say the U.S. has like 700 military bases, and China has only 1 to 3, right? No mention of the Uyghurs in there, right? All of the crying and
Well, I'm just saying
complaining
it's not
about war
apples to apples
crimes.
in terms of their global conflicts and what they're engaged in. The United States military, when you say something like, well, I mean, what are they doing that's in Afghanistan that's so bad? I mean, technically, if you're in the middle of an occupation and the occupation is considered by different parties in that area to be an illegal occupation, not to mention if it's one that creates power vacuum.
Wait, different parties in Afghanistan? Who the people that consider it a conflict of interest for them to be there are what? The Taliban? Is that who Lance is siding with here? Or what?
Like Iraq has, where beyond the 500,000 to 1 million dead civilians, there is a chance for places like, organizations like ISIS to form. That is also a massive problem. Even if you say like we're technically just occupying, we're not in the midst of committing war crimes today. Today is a war crime free day. 0 days since our last war crime.
Well, right, but I wanted to. The reason I said that is because I wanted to differentiate between military action that you disagree with and war crimes, because you're not.
But it's the same organization.
But this is not your issue. Is for the most part, if the military had never ever done a war crime, no one ever, would you be adamant about them not being on Twitch? Yeah, I'm sorry. Hold on. Wait. And there was no sexual assault, and no one had PTSD, and no one had drug and alcohol problems, and there was no issue
So
with,
it's not a
with
military.
that.
It's anything but
the
the
reason.
military.
Well, I mean, so with some reasonable rates, right? You're going to see it higher in infantry because they're going to see combat, right? You're going to see things like that, things that you would be understanding that as a military, it's got to exist, and combat's going to happen, and PTSD will happen to people who see combat. We will
Oh, then yes.
accept those things.
They have no business being here. Then yes. Yeah. On the platform.
Again,
That's true. Wait, what did that guy say in Twitch chat? The SerfsTV sounds like a Reddit comment bot. True.
Because what's going to happen to people if they do join this organization? It's not just about recruitment, but you're bringing this up, so let's talk about it, right? So we were talking about veterans. I think we both agree. We both probably deeply support veterans. That's the one thing that we're both on the same side
Absolutely.
of. But the fact that there's 968,000 veterans that lived in poverty last year, 630,000 homeless Americans,
wait.
1 in 10 of them. Yeah.
veterans. Okay, wait. We're talking about experience in the military.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm bringing up veterans because this is the end result of what your course will take you, right? So nearly 1 million veterans lived in poverty last year. 67,495 homeless veterans are living in America right now. That's over 1 in 10 of the homeless population. 45% of homeless veterans experience mental illness. 76% experience alcohol and drug abuse problems.
Now the Rage Pope strategy comes out. Just read it, roll off them stats.
21% of women veterans experience sexual trauma consistently. That is not what I consider a good career path. Like I wouldn't chance that in my length. Like if you had a kid, I wouldn't say to my child, hey, by the way, if you want a good education, go down this pathway. But there are these statistics that are a little bit scary because you won't find them in other respects, but it's still a career path at the end of the day.
Before we get off Lycan, I'd like a response to the second question I proposed.
Can you remind me what that question was, please?
The second question was.
Oh my God, Dylan going all the way back to hold Lycan to account when the Serfs has managed to dance off of any fucking question at all? I wonder if he'll come on.
I first asked you about them being on Twitch, and the second
About
part.
China, and then
I don't think he will. Hey, want to come on and chat for a few minutes? Just had a few questions about the debate with Lycan smiley face. No, D face.
and something else.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because I just remember didn't get an answer to it. Chat will remind me. But I just wanted to bring up quickly to the Serfs. Actually, the question was like chat reminds me what the second question was. So would you put this up basically on any type of employment that has like negative like health or other effects on people? Like for example, let's say there was like, hey, join our boxing school, or hey, join the firefighters, or hey, join any of these things that have negative health effects.
Yeah, so for this specifically,
Oh, yeah, reason for the military push, that was it.
Right, so for this specifically, I'm trying to just keep an applicable standard. If I judged this organization the same way I would judge anyone else on Twitch. So if you told me, again, there was a streamer house in which these things happen, they've committed these atrocities, I would say this has no place on Twitch. And that's the reason I use Anissian and Shane Dawson, is because I think they came to Twitch after the fact that they had committed all these like either sexual assaults or grooming things.
Those
on
are
YouTube, and then they came to
individuals,
Twitch
not
afterwards.
organizations, though.
That's another example of me applying that same principle. I don't think they belong on here, right? They sexually molest children or whatever. Then I'm trying to say that they shouldn't be a Twitch streamer.
So you would so wait, I just wanted to get clear. So the answer to the question is yes. Boxing Academy should not be able to like advertise on Twitch.
So why Boxing Academy specifically?
Boxing is like a sport which can have terrible health effects for people who get into the industry of boxing. I mean, we've seen the type of brain damage that boxers go through.
Yep.
Right. So
Or
there's a
football.
negative health
Are
effect.
people to be boxers, or are they just people are becoming boxers? Like there's a bit of a difference there, right?
Well, I mean, if you're a boxing academy, like they're trying to get you there to join their thing so they can make boxers out of it. Well, they're coming out to you, hey, this is why you should come to our boxing academy and learn to box and become a boxer, right?
And they have comparable numbers of like sexual assaults.
Well, I'm talking. Well,
Oh my
It does
God.
not specifically sexual
Because you're
assault.
just
But
gonna
I'm talking about like
I think
brain
sports
damage.
could
I'm
be
talking
okay.
about
I'm fine.
well, the thing is, you're talking about negative effects on people from their employment.
By the organization itself, though, not on like
Not from the
ancillary things.
practice. So PTSD
Right.
from war would not be something that you would to get rid of the organization when it comes to like the U.S. military.
But
But it would be
built into
for
the actions that you have to do on behalf of the organization.
Yeah.
You have to go into Fallujah. You have to kill a civilian if you're ordered to do so, right? That will give you the PTSD. You're being ordered.
Actually, you
to do
don't
those
have to.
You don't. That's not even true. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Right to refuse an unlawful order. Whether or not, if you don't, I believe you should be held to account. Very often the military does.
Or
I was just specifically
you're
trying
not,
to isolate
you're not
the
even
negative
necessarily
effects on
active duty all the
individuals
time,
from
or you're not
That's what I'm
actually
trying to isolate.
deployed
But your
in
thing
the
is-
combat zone.
well, it's
Sorry,
not
not
that.
active duty.
That's from the actions of what you have to do in that industry comparative to the specific organization, which is inherently
When it
has
comes to
problems with
boxing,
it.
like to be honest, with your example, I just need to know more, right? Like I do want to. Apply the
Oh
same
my
standard.
Well, the only thing we know is
God,
boxing.
Dude, Lycan should have never engaged in good faith with any of the Serfs' earlier questions about like Onision or whatever. Lycan should have did this like stupid concern troll, like, oh well, what did they do? Oh well, I need to know the exact things. Oh well, I need to know exactly what happened. Blah 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 blah. He shouldn't have engaged in good faith at all. Lance is so slimy, dude. Like if Lance was actually interested in a good faith combo here, he would just like flat out admit. He'd be like, oh yeah, well assuming that's true. I mean, I'm kind of logically committed to this answer, 100%, of course. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I must be, right? Of course I would say that, right? That's what he should be saying, but he won't.
Brain damage, right? Like you don't, like when you box, you have like terrible amounts of brain damage.
It's all right. Let me help a little bit. It's something that's very common, even if you don't end up professional. Just
Oh,
boxing.
no.
during
I know
sparring.
this. I know this about boxing. I'm just
Okay.
trying to say, in my mind, this organization is not specifically recruiting anyone. You join of your own free will to become a boxer, right? It's not as if they're trying to entice you to become boxers for the organization.
This is how you know. Whenever you hear somebody, this is something that's really important. I am good at identifying this in the middle of a conversation, but I need to be more careful for calling it out, because usually when I hear stuff like this is when I just start going full troll mode, because I know the person is like has no idea what they're talking about. Whenever you hear somebody say something and you think about it for a second and you're like, this is obviously a really stupid point, then what's happening
Unless
is
you are a boxer,
the person knows that they don't have a real argument and they're starting to reach. They're just starting to like search for shit. And they're just like making shit up. So this like, well, it's different. Well, when you join a boxing, like you're doing it of your own free will, like blah, blah, like what the fuck does that mean? Do you think the military is like enslaving people? Like,
you're doing private boxing for competition, for a private company to make money and be famous in your own right, right?
So what if you're an eminent
that's
person
not.
that joins
Well,
the
yeah,
military?
What does any of this matter?
We can get
Like-
off of this, but my scenario was they're on Twitch to recruit people. They want new boxers. They want new blood for their thing. They want new people to get involved in the sport. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, but it's not for life, right? It's not like you can only do this to get an education, or you might only do this because it's going to feed you, or you might only
wait, do you think you don't join the military for life?
do this because it's the only way you get like.
Well,
medical services in the
that's
US,
that's
right?
what certainly like no like as somebody who did boxing, like that was one of the things I consider.
How for like free education and shit? Do you have to put in a full 20, or is it like 5 to 10? How long is the standard? How long is like a military contract to get your education paid for? Is it 20? Is it just 4 years? Is it really just 4 years? Okay, yeah. What is this for life shit?
Considered as a way of employment because I didn't know what else I was going to do once I got out of high school. Like boxing was a thing.
Can you stop whenever you want? Can you just,
I mean, you can, but the same way you can like quit any other job, but under capitalism, you need employment to like survive.
right, but in the military you can't quit whenever you want, right?
Not until your enlistment's up.
Not until you listen to it.
Okay.
Okay, like here's
See,
my
I don't
question.
think this is a fair direct comparison. There's like if you
Oh my god.
give me some time with this, I can look through it and then I'd be like, okay, maybe not, or yes, maybe.
Okay, so like I have a question for
But
you.
I would like to apply the same standards.
I want to say to you, Lycan. So this has been a lot of like you like, well, let me defend here, or let me move or shift over here, or let me do that. So what is the reason they should be on the platform, right? What is the reason that they should actually?
I don't like how Dylan is making it sound like he's sliding around. I think Lycan has stayed on point like pretty hardcore. Lance has slid around like crazy though.
have a spot on Twitch. Why?
Because the military offers, despite all the bad things that could happen, the military does offer a lot of great career opportunities. First of all, if we're going to talk about the narrative of the poor, it does offer people the opportunity to lift themselves out of poverty.
That's not what he meant. He meant that oftentimes people see the military as a pathway to opportunity, education, comma, a job. Man, if you think that, I got a lot of bad. If you think it's bad that some people might join the military because they see it as their only way out, I got a lot of bad news for you about black athletes in high school that look for college sponsorships for doing college sports, man. Whew. Yeah, that's going to be a big yikes, my dude, because when you go into that world, you're about to find out a whole bunch of shit that's going to blow your fucking mind, my dog.
You go to the military, you can choose an excellent job. You can become an aircraft mechanic. You could simply work administration, but then for that 4 years, you can use the military's tuition assistance to use your free time, since you work a stateside job, to go to college, finish your degree there, get out, get your master's on the GI Bill, and go on to have a wonderful, fruitful career. There's a lot of control an individual has over what career they take. There are a lot of opportunities offered to them after. If you want to go ahead and do 20 years, you get a decent pension. Throughout that time, you get benefits for you and your family. Something that gets brought up often is that X number of military live in poverty within the military, but the reality is, you have your housing paid for, you have enough money for food, you get stipends for family,
live on
full
base.
medical coverage. In fact, probably the best medical coverage that you can get in the United States. So I believe that the military does offer a lot of good for a lot of people in the United States. And it is, for that reason, something that shouldn't be shunned as an opportunity.
Well,
So just like any other organization.
I want to respond to
Well,
that.
yeah, but the thing is, I grilled you, so now if I don't grill him, then I look biased, and then I'm the bootlicker, and somehow the moderator's the bootlicker.
Can I just say one comment?
Okay, one comment then. Okay.
And he doesn't have to respond to this, but everything that you just listed to me is the signs of a society not functioning properly. That you would have to turn to an organization like the military, where you have to go overseas and potentially kill people to receive all those things in society. That's stuff that should be provided to you by society. Sorry, and go ahead.
So I wanted to say, do you at all see a problem with how the way U.S. Army Esports and the U.S. military advertises itself? I mean, it doesn't come off like, hi, so what we do is 90% of the time we take you away from your families, you go into these very far off places, they kind of advertise it kind of like in video games and media, and as this kind of like fun adventure, and they go to video game events trying to make it like somewhat comparable to what you see in these video games, or advertise.
Okay, this is true of literally every job ever. Like, you're never gonna fucking, like a Facebook ad. I don't know how Facebook advertises on campus, but I'm willing to bet that when they do, if I don't know if anyone here has ever had like a Facebook recruiter show up, it's probably like, yo, did you know that at Facebook, everybody gets to choose extra bonus projects to work on? Did you know that we have rooms on campus dedicated to creative projects? Did you know that you can go to our awesome cafeterias? We've got bikes and in-house Ubers that you can use to get around campus on blah, blah, blah. Like, you're never gonna go to a job recruitment and they're like, you're gonna sit in a cubicle for 10 hours next to somebody that fucking hates you because for some reason in 2014, every single tech company decided they wanted to do an Opus Campus thing because they wanted to copy Google, even though it sucks ass, and you're going to sit here and you're going to code for the rest of your fucking life. And by rest of your life, we mean until you've got your 3-year investment and you leave as quickly as fucking possible. Like, come on. Like, every place that recruits is going to be showing off only like the best parts of the job. Like, what do you mean?
It in that manner, or see it as this fun experience when you're going around the world taking people's lives. Away from your family. I mean, they present it in a way that don't you think it's pretty disingenuous? Definitely on a platform that's very, very, very populated by like small children.
So here's something I will be, what would the word be? Very critical about with the military. It's a long time joke where you see those pictures of the sailor holding their seat bag and saying, "Come see the world," right? But the reality is you're stuck on a ship in a fucking sardine can with about 10 other people in a 2x2 room, and you can smell piss everywhere, right? Like, it's not as advertised. Like, there are certain issues like that, sure.
And that's particularly harmful to children, then, right?
No, because again, it's not like we don't advertise cigarettes to children, because the reason we stopped advertising cigarettes to children is because children started smoking. No, I said the reason we did is because children started smoking, right?
Because
but if a fucking kid sees the military advertisement, or they see the military streaming on Twitch and they get involved with it, and they're like, haha, this is cool, whatever. That dude or chick still has years before they get to the age where they can actually enlist, and they have a lot of other influences to make that decision. And now, I would say, no one's pissy about the 4-H club or the school resource officer. Like, what about the police? Like, do you think the police should be removed from all children's media and should be removed from all aspects of school growing up, because you have the school resource officer there constantly, a bunch of school books and like
Lance is getting
hold on. Stop. I'm saying we represent the one of the biggest factors, and I have a New York Times article about this that will say whether or not someone joins the military is their familiarity with the military. And a similar factor to that is the police force. So you see a lot of people, police in the family, whatever. We advertise. I'm using that loosely. We show the police in a positive light from day one. The moment you fucking come out, everything from the Paw Patrol to Reno 911, right? Like, in some way or another, police are showed in a positive, fun, friendly light, and Americans grow up to look at the police in a positive way, despite all the shit that's happened in the last year. Overwhelmingly, still very positive view of the police. So my question is, do you want that to stop? Should we not have police in media? Should we not have police in kids' learning material? Should we not have police?
Yes.
For the sake of argument, let's say I bit the bullet here and said, well, wouldn't this be part of the reason that has made it so a lot of Americans are blind to the injustices that police have created in the United States? And so when everybody, like black communities, would have to feel the backlash of police, the white communities look around like, well, I remember Paw Patrol was really nice when I was a kid, and that set me on the line to thinking the police are my best friend, but my best friend would never do that to the black guy.
I would say that the reality is that even after the last year, even in the black community, the police are still overwhelmingly popular.
I'll send that over back to you, sir. Send that over to you, sir.
No, I'm not going to debate. This is a totally separate debate. I don't want to get derailed into that conversation because I wouldn't mind focusing on the military. Mine has no place on this platform.
I just wanted to say to that was to answer Dylan's point as far as like, why do I think I don't see it as an issue to advertise it to children, because, there are certain things we don't advertise to kids, like smoking, but joining the military, I don't see as a problematic entity to encourage them to maybe join.
So would you in fact actually be in favor of them removing the age gate on the U.S. Army
Well,
esports page?
I don't give a shit about the age gate, because...
So if they got rid of it tomorrow, you'd be like, I don't care?
No, because that's like saying we need a government issued license to watch pornography, right? Like, we know age gates don't matter.
Oh,
So there should be no age gate on
careful, Lycan.
Stop.
Oh
Don't
no.
bro me.
Well, I'm just...
No, that's
I'm just bringing it to a logical conclusion.
All they have
that's
to do is create an account and lie, right? That's all they have
Yeah,
to do.
but don't you think adding an extra barrier stops less children from accessing that resource, and it kind of creates an environment where parents know that this might be dangerous for children?
I don't know. Have you guys ever watched porn? But I didn't
yeah,
start after I turned 18.
but we all know that putting an extra barrier between a child and something else will, no matter what the barrier is, no matter how effective it is, will inevitably stop some.
Okay, I will give you some. Sure, yes, maybe it stops some, but I don't see it as a negative. That's the other thing. Is like, I don't see it as a negative that they are exposed to it. Again, recruiters
Oh,
get
no,
more
Lycan,
benefit
how
from
did you get
everything from the
baited
Army
into
football team to
this?
NASCAR to the commercials that are on TV to fucking Call of Duty and American movies.
Okay, I'll wait. I just want to I'm pulling away
my
my grilling, and I just wanted to put that section out there. I wanted to try that out. You got about 15 more minutes before we're going to ask questions, and then we'll wrap it up.
Oh, wow. That's not enough time. So if you want to talk about military recruitment of youth, right? We already acknowledged that, right now the U.S. military is allowed to enter into high schools as part of the No Child Left Behind Act. One of the things that they started doing is they started offering a $6,000 grant, which you would receive only upon completing or starting boot camp. So that is a direct incentivization that is being given to, yes, you are correct, to uplift people out of poverty. But that's one of the reasons why it's been called and targeted as the poverty draft. Ever since Vietnam, there's been a disparagement in the amount of people in the United States military that falls along racial lines, unfortunately. Like, black people are overrepresented in the military. So are other ethnic minorities. This started in Vietnam, by the way, because one of the reasons you wouldn't have to do the draft in Vietnam is if you were in a school or university. So that's how, for the first time, we saw a cut down the middle of basically like economic lines for the United States. This continues to this day.
So
And
can I to add that point while you're going there, from the New York Times, the main predictors are not based on class or race. Army data shows service members spread mostly evenly through middle class and downscale groups. Youth unemployment turns out to not be the primary factor, and the racial makeup of the force is more or less in line with that of young Americans as a whole, though African Americans are slightly more likely to serve.
Damn.
From the same, the information I got for that article was from the Pew Research Center, and from the Pew Research Center, same statistics in the Department of Defense. It says that in 2015, 44% of all Americans aged 18 to 44 were racial or ethnic minorities. In the same year, blacks made up 17% of the DoD active duty military, somewhat higher than the share of the U.S. population, 18 to 44 at 13%. So they are still overrepresented, even within that.
Oh,
that doesn't change the fact that they are being recruited and targeted in these areas. Like, you were just talking about how there's an insidiousness in certain schools and not insidious schools in the media. Like, you know about the Independence Day example, I'm sure, right? Like, or do I need to talk about this? Is not like a gotcha.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Independence Day 2, the movie, big mainstream blockbuster film, the United States military does what it does with a lot of these major films, is it wanted to partner with them in order to use it for active recruitment. The deal is you'll get a huge amount of military gear, so you can use tanks, jets, all that kind of stuff, no cost to you. The US has done this with, the military has done this with a lot of different movies. In exchange, they want to have cross-pollination with the recruitment practices. With Independence Day 2, what they did is they set up a website where you would play a video game before the movie came out. In the game, if you finished like a handful of things, decoded it or whatever, you would then be sent to the US military recruitment center, which of course was the purpose of trying to appeal to a younger male demographic and get them to get recruited into US military. Something that's funny is that Independence Day 1 was supposed to do this, but the US military didn't agree with the use of Will Smith's wife being a stripper because they thought that was against the principles, so they ended up not using Independence Day 1. But anyways, that's one of numerous examples. They've done this with Marvel films as well. They do a lot of cross-pollination. They do it with video game leagues. They've done it with actual US Army recruitment video game competitions, right? Like, they're not secretive about this. This is not something that they're doing behind the scenes. And
wait, is this supposed to be insidious though? Wait, hold on. So okay.
to me, it is absolutely, because you're trying to recruit teenagers into a program that again has very abhorrent things that you may do. You may be experiencing PTSD, all this shitty stuff. Like, you may look at this as a great opportunity for people who get in, get out, and by the time they're out, nothing bad happened. And great, that's cool. But there's also possibilities that something terrible might happen to either you, or you might have to do something terrible to someone else.
Okay, so as far as, well, I don't really see an issue with any of that. It's just continuing to, it's more advertising, right? It's another commercial. It's just like Mountain Dew, or it's like Coke, wanting to be the can that Tony Stark holds before he takes a drink, right? Like, it's product placement, it's advertising. They want to engage. Just like Mountain Dew had all those points for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which I drank way too much of and probably lucked out not getting diabetes. It's
but like, Mountain Dew doesn't make you bomb poor people overseas.
Again, you were ascribing. You were saying if you join, you will end up doing this.
No, you could, and Mountain Dew doesn't do that. If I drink a Mountain Dew, I'm not going to bomb anybody. But I could have a possibility of doing that if I joined the U.S. military.
The thing I brought up earlier, I said you have a choice, a very, very strong impact on what career path you take in the military. You can choose to be an administrator, and unless we have you get attached to 1st Recon Battalion, and you're the head of the spear going into Iraq, the odds of you stepping foot on ground in Iraq, unlikely. Most administrators are working on a base and never pull a trigger. So I'm saying you have a huge choice.
That doesn't change the fact that it may happen, right? It doesn't happen with Mountain Dew. That's the point.
The odds of...
Okay, the odds may be low that if you're in an administrative position, you will not see direct combat. Cool. The odds are still very high that you may experience sexual assault, right? Like, that doesn't change the fact that this could happen. Whereas you're trying to make this comparison that all these other companies do this advertising. Coca-Cola does advertising. McDonald's does advertising. Well, those again, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, they don't have even a 1% chance of you going overseas and murdering someone. So I would make the example then that they could be allowed in this space, even though this is another rabbit hole because I could talk about how shitty fast food is. But it's not an organization that makes you kill people, is my point.
I'll be honest. I don't know how to navigate around this because, again, you are ascribing, these are things that are happening in the military. These are things that, in some of the cases, the military is trying to actively address. But again, I bring up the example of the schools with that when you bring up assault, because again, 18% schools, 24% U.S. military. With those rates, you would not say, hey, don't go to college campus, right? You would not say, do not enter the United States college system.
I would say, does that school have a business being on the Twitch streaming platform, though? Because that's what you're trying to get me to compare to, right?
Well,
Not
right
whether or
now,
not
though,
you're in
the vein of our
school.
conversation
Is
is
it-
whether or not you ought to join
Okay,
with those
okay. So
problems.
would I join that school? Okay, so to make it comparable, then that school also has to have had a history of committing some of the worst and most atrocious
War crimes.
crimes in human history, and also there's a small possibility that by joining the school, I could have to murder someone else
Well,
across the
and I
world
try to wipe out
who is
the
poorer than me.
and I try to wipe out the war crime thing because again, most people do not commit.
But then it's not a
war crimes in the
comparable
military.
example. You can't just isolate this one thing. This organization as a whole has a whole bunch of blood on its hands, so that's how we have to judge it by. If we're trying to say that we wouldn't allow it on this Twitch platform, which I'm still on a very decided side of saying no, I don't think they should be here.
At this point, I mean, so I think we can go to final statements. Not that, because it's just going to go back and forth. He's going to bring up something about the military. I'm going to say, yeah, well, it happens here as well. He's going to say, yeah, but they also have X, Y, and Z. I'm going to say, yeah, you know what? We need to fix the VA so these people get taken care of when they leave the military. A systemic issue. Yeah, we need to not let fucking war crimes happen. Another systemic issue, often perpetrated by the government and the civilian side that isn't even a part of the military. Yeah, sexual assault is bad. The military is trying to handle this. The government is trying to handle this. It's a fucking horrible problem and it needs to be weeded out. Hopefully one day it will. But even when those are gone, we're still not going to want people to join the United States military because they are an entity that exists for one purpose, and that is protecting the United States, and sometimes that means killing people.
You can respond. Lance.
What's happening? Are we doing?
Well, no, that's
are
saying,
you-
do you
are
see
you
a
disclosing-
vector
are you
person?
disclosing?
No, that's me asking if you see a vector person
I
beyond
guess he's
that.
calling for closing. We can do closing. We'll have about like 13 minutes to do questions. 13 to 23 minutes to do questions. If we close now.
I'm fine.
Okay, you just did closing. You can do yours.
Oh, I was like, I'm fine with questions if the audience has one. But yeah, sure, I could do closing. So do you want me to just do a closing statement then?
Yes.
Okay. One thing I think that we didn't get a chance to touch on, so if I'm going to use my closing statement, I'll use it for this, is to talk about the military-industrial complex for a little bit. I'm going to quote Eisenhower for a second. Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies in the final sense the theft from those who hunger and those who are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. This world in arms is not spending money alone. It is the sweat of its laborers, the genius of the scientists, the hopes of its children. So says war criminal Dwight D. Eisenhower. So when I talk about the weapons manufacturers and the military-industrial complex, normally that term sounds pretty nebulous, but what I'm talking about is the interaction.
What is it like? Every single president and every single person in the military, is everybody like a war criminal? Is that how these lefties like? I don't know why I'm asking this. I'm being rhetorical. The answer is obviously yes. Every single person is a war criminal.
And interdependency between weapons manufacturers, the government, and the public. And here's where I think the entire system really fucks everybody over, because private corporations produce everything expensively and potentially unnecessarily to make weapons, who then turn them and sell them to the government, who justifies the purchase of those weapons by using and selling them. I think this harms the public financially because taxpayers have to pay for both the weapons and the wars. It hurts them morally because it makes them complicit in any war crimes, bombs that are used to Yemen, and the US spends more on its military than the next 10 countries combined, like I was talking about before. I think the United States is home to 5 of the world's 10 largest defense contractors. The American companies account for 57% of all arms sales to the world's 100 largest defense contractors. That includes Lockheed Martin, that includes Boeing, that includes Raytheon. The same companies that produced, like Lockheed Martin, made the bomb that was sold to Saudi Arabia, that was dropped on a bus in Yemen, that killed 40 kids. That is made by the military-industrial complex, and is intertwined with the same organization that, again, is trying to become a broadcaster on Twitch. So that's something that I think is just so far beyond the pale. The United States accounts for 80% of global arms trade. So no, I do not feel in any way, shape, or form the US military should belong on the Twitch streaming platform, either as a recruitment tool or even just as an entity itself. I find that it has way too much blood on its hands, and having that accessible to children or people who are even 16 to 24 years old is a net loss to society.
Okay. What we're going to do now is questions. So if you're in my chat or the
Actually, hold on. My closing statement wasn't truly a closing statement, so all I'd like to do is just make one little comment. I completely agree with most of what Lance just said. I am anti-military industrial complex, but my difference in opinion is where he views the military as a heavy perpetrator in the sense that they are responsible for more than just engaging R&D, developing a need for things, or identifying a need because they actually engage in combat and have to identify threats and all that. But the biggest perpetrator is going to be the federal government and the contractors that work with them.
Okay. Chat, either if you're in the Surfs chat or you're in my chat, just at me with your question and I'll be able to do it. I'll say hello in the Surfs chat so you know what my username is, and everybody in my chat should know what my username is at this point. So do your questions. I'll not be able to do them all. I'll just try to choose the best ones.
Every question in my chat so far is dealing with your hair so luxurious.
Thanks, Lucid Fox. I appreciate that. Okay, I have a few. The first one's also about hair. That one's not okay. If we have okay,
He won't answer. He won't ask me any questions. We talked about this before.
Yeah.
So
Okay, this one's kind of this one's a loaded question. Do you still want me to ask it, Lycan?
sure.
Ask Lycan if he's okay with ISIS recruiting kids on Twitch.
No, fucking Christ.
Okay.
So then where do you differentiate? It's A, because you think ISIS is evil and you think the United States military is good then, right? If I'm being good faith, and that's why.
That feels very ungod faith because it feels like a trap.
I'm
Yeah, no,
trying to differentiate why you would say one, because I can easily say both bad, neither belong on there. You can say the same thing with the Chinese military, does not belong on the Twitch.
But would you say
all of them without thinking about it, right? And
what would you say-
you still have to answer the question. You still have to answer
Okay,
the question.
okay.
Because one of them
Yes,
is good,
for me,
one is bad in your eyes.
for me, yes. But I would say to you, I assume you would say the bad that you look at them is somewhat different, right?
And
Like,
it's
I believe that you can
responsible
identify.
for
I think you could look at the way the military operates. Well, no, because if you did that, then you'd have to take away some of the responsibility for the military and put it more on individual actors. Because I would say the purpose of ISIS is to do nefarious, away some of the responsibility for the military and put it more on. I believe that you could identify. I think you could look at the way the military operates. Well, no, because if you did that, then you'd have to take away some of the responsibility for the military and put it more on individual actors. Because I would say the purpose of ISIS is to do nefarious, evil things to people, where the purpose of the military is ultimately to protect and defend the nation that it stands for.
So hypothetically, could there be a nation that you would not be okay with recruiting on Twitch if they're acting in an extremely belligerent way? Say like, let's say that
Nazi Germany was recruiting on Twitch. Yes, I would have a problem with that.
Okay, so there's no nation currently that you would currently label as not allowed to recruit on Twitch under filing under that jurisdiction.
North Korea.
North Korea. That's your standard. What about the Saudis? What about the Saudis in Yemen? Would that?
I'm actually ignorant enough of the Saudi situation to say I couldn't say.
Okay. The next one would be this is for
the
the
monarchy, and so it's basically like an evil,
So they're super
oil
based
rich
in-
monarchy that is
Red
just
Pill.
fucking up a bunch of countries in near proximity.
Okay, this one is for the Surfs. Does the Surf think is it okay for companies like Coke who have hired paramilitary death squads to advertise on Twitch?
Ooh, no, there's a great question. I think if
I don't know if
Coke
that statement is true. By the way, I just want to say I don't know if that's
It's-
true, but I know that companies have done that in the past, so this just applies.
Yeah, so
generally.
it hasn't. It's not something that I have like anything I've ever read on that I have trouble finding sources that. And please send me them if you know other ones. But I have trouble finding sources that aren't like a little bit uncorroboratable. But if a company like Coca-Cola has been involved in stuff like that, or here's a better one, Nestle, or Nestle, is it Nestle? Fuck, I'm
Nestle.
But anyways, Nestle.
Sorry.
Nestle has, for example, tried privatizing water and successfully done it in numerous countries to the point where the countries themselves had to actually do protests against it. I think that there's enough blood on their hands for me to say, yes, I don't think they have any place to be on Twitch. And if Coca-Cola, I don't know enough about Coca-Cola, but if you could demonstrate to me that Coca-Cola as a corporation has done a whole bunch of things akin to that, then yeah, I would probably apply the same kind of judgment. I don't think anyone can compare it to the United States Army. We're talking about a behemoth in terms of both its reach and its damage. But yeah, I would try to apply the same standards to others that I would apply to them.
Okay, next question, another one for Lance. When Lycan brought up sexual assaults rates in universities, you responded by mentioning war crimes. If the U.S. military wasn't guilty of war crimes but had the same rates of sexual assault, would you be okay with them recruiting on Twitch?
If they didn't have the war crimes and they were just doing sexual assaults,
And they had the sexual assaults, like they had the same rate of sexual assaults as universities, for example.
but the only reason this is a hard one to answer is what else do they do then? Is it just an organization where people get sexually assaulted? Because then, yeah, no, I wouldn't want it on the streaming platform.
Well, it would be a military. Do what militaries are. Like,
What else do they do? What do you think militaries do? Is it literally just like day 1 in the army, how to rape? Day 2, how to commit war crimes? Day 3, you're a full U.S. Army cadet. Good luck, soldier. What do you mean? What kind of stupid fucking Christ?
Same with the high school one, for example, even though the rates are higher in the U.S. military than they are in universities. But the one with the high schools is that you're trying to remove the organization itself from the problems that are happening inside it, right? Whereas to me, these organizations, like the high schools or the universities, they're not actively trying to recruit people on the Twitch platform, to my knowledge, are they?
Say it one more time.
Are they actively recruiting on the Twitch platform as well, like these universities and these colleges?
No, but hypothetically, if they did, would that be a problem for you?
Based solely on the rape problem?
And let's assume that it's the same rate across every university.
Right? Or we're isolating the rape issue.
And every university is trying to do something about it. So everyone's making a concerted good faith effort to try and combat the issue.
If it's something that is directly endangering the audience itself, then because this organization is large enough and that there's people who may be prone to going on Twitch and then wanting to join that because of the dangers, I don't think it's a one-to-one. But I would entertain this. I would say, okay, then I'm willing to have this discussion about whether or not they shouldn't be allowed. I can't give you a hard answer right now because it's obviously it's on the ball and I'm trying to run it through my head. But I promise I'll think more about this and I'll come back to you on it.
Okay. Next one will be this one is for Lycan. How can Lycan be opposed to the military-industrial complex while encouraging people to participate in it?
Because the issue with the military-industrial complex comes down to it's more, I want to say, the business side of government. That like the system that makes the military-industrial complex work is that the government, people in the government identify targets. By identifying targets for us to engage with, we then come up with different weapon systems and contracts and whatever to support those efforts. And then in doing so, the government makes a shit ton of money. Contractors make a shit ton of money. Contractors then come up with new ideas to sell to the government. The government gets sold on them. They then buy those things. They implement them into the military. If you want a great example of the military-industrial complex, watch the movie. It's a movie with Kelsey Grammer and the guy who played in Princess Bride. I can't remember what it's called. But where they make the Bradley tank. I have to know this. Give me 3 seconds.
No worries. I actually have a concrete answer for you, Dylan, for your previous question. If you want me to answer it, just so I'm on the record, give me an answer.
Sure.
Okay, so I would have absolutely no problem because I just looked at the stats here. There's not a problem or a statistic of the professors and the teachers committing the rapes in these organizations. That's not happening. So I don't know if that was proposed or someone suggesting that. But anyways, these are happening by other campus members as well, not institutions.
Wait, why is that distinction important? Now, hold on. I don't want you to join the military because, first of all, is the claim that only higher ups or officers are raping? I don't even know if that's true. But it's like, okay, now listen, the chances of getting raped are comparable, but at least when you go to college, you're only going to be getting raped by fellow classmates. So that's okay. Why does this matter?
Like, it's not people.
Do you not think that the institution has the responsibility
Correct. However,
to
there's a
stop
huge
this?
problem in the military of people and in positions of power of raping their subordinates.
Is that where the 24% number comes from? Just all?
No. The stats are overwhelmingly.
So.
Those are aggregate stats, but there's also a problem, a hierarchical problem within the military, which has its own set of stats and problems, which relate directly to the fact that there are superiors who are sexually assaulting people below them. Right? If that is a problem that is comparable in universities that I did not know about until now, then yes, I would say that you can make that argument.
And what about the universities that have helped develop napalm, for example?
That was developed by a university.
I believe it was Harvard. Somebody's helped with. I'd have to do it, but I think they participate in some manner. Or I believe they did in some manner. I have to check that. Somebody that I respect in my chat said it, so I have to check it myself.
So you go to school for 4 years, though.
Make sure.
While you leave the military, you still go to that school. You're still a part of that school. So wouldn't you see that as kind of, for the sake of this argument, comparatively similar, that you go to that 4-year school?
Yeah. In 1942, Harvard scientists conducted the first test of a napalm bomb in a pond dug behind the business school.
I'll need to learn about this. I didn't do enough research on napalm, apparently.
If you've ever gone to the campus, it's fucking hilarious.
I interrupted you, Lycan.
By the way, they have a picture of it. They literally just like blowing up napalm, like in a pond behind us, in a campus in the background. It's quite a wild picture.
It's just, that's funny to imagine that fire explosion on that like nice, pretty brick and green campus. No, real quick before, so my thing for my answer before was the Pentagon Wars is the movie. And then you watch it, there's a very famous scene, it's like 10 minutes long, where the guy is talking about the Bradley tank that's supposed to be a scout. And then there's like a 20-year period where this dude is stuck as everyone else has these good fairy ideas where they come in and they say, oh, what if we added this? What if we had this? The project keeps changing. It costs billions more than it was supposed to. And then it ends up not actually serving the fucking need. Like, it's a very oversimplified example of how in the military industrial complex, it's not just.
This kind of sounds like the F-35 right now.
It's it's fucking waste. It's waste and unnecessary spending to continually ramp up things. And there are many different factors, and it's not just the military existing that makes it happen. Does it need the military to exist to happen? Yes, absolutely. But it's not the military that makes it go around. There might be key players, people impacting designs, people actually identifying ways of new warfare, identifying new threats and how to combat them. Are there actual needs for spending? Yes. But it's the bloat, it's the excess, it's the being sold on things that we don't need that really makes the military industrial complex go around.
Okay, I have a question for Lycan. We have about 10 minutes left, by the way. I have a genuine question. Does Lycan believe that the U.S. esports team, as a federal entity with a public forum, should be allowed to violate the First Amendment by removing comments with factual information on war crimes past and present, as well as violated Twitch TOS with a fake giveaway of an Xbot Elite controller?
Okay, so first, Lance, I would like you to link me the article because the reason I want you to is because when this fucking happened, again, I saw nothing that actually proved that the Xbox that you would never get it. I know that it would link you to a recruitment page, but no one ever fucking put their information in and showed what happened after that page and whether or not you were submitted for the giveaway, right? So if they have proof.
So I sent you the article, and it says the U.S. Army's Twitch channel has been reprimanded by the platform after it used fake game controller giveaways to give people to a recruitment form. The controversy comes soon after it was criticized for blocking viewers who asked about war crimes, as reported by The Nation. So The Nation originally reported the Army, Navy, and Air Force of all dedicated esports teams that stream on Twitch. The members consist of active. The publication writes that the channel streams were regularly populated with an automatic chat prompt that offered a chance to win $200 and an Xbox Elite Series 2. But upon clicking on the link, it directed people to an Army recruitment form, and there was no mention of competition, odds, number of winners, or draw dates.
On that form, yes, I want to know what happened after, and I want confirmation that if you submitted your information to that form, that it didn't get processed on there.
No. When clicking on the link, it was instead of going to a competition itself.
No. I remember. Yeah, no. I was following this very closely. I remember the form. What I'm saying is, there is no evidence that if you entered that information, that on their back end they weren't tracking it as a submission, because you do that all the time with links. You can show where the link came from, and what. So it could just be that they were lazy and didn't put that information.
When you clicked on the link, it should have gone to an entry form for the.
Yes, that would have been optically better. But what I'm saying is, we have no proof that they weren't actually still holding the competition. That it was just fucking stupid.
So your implication here is that when you clicked on that link and you signed up for the U.S. military, instead you were all automatically linked to being part of that competition.
You didn't expect to get to join the competition without giving information, did you? That's all part of it.
Okay, so you're still.
Wait, I'm not saying something stupid, and I'm saying this very clearly.
Okay, so think of this: when you click on a link, and instead of going to a link to a competition where it says, "Hey, you can win a prize," it's a link to sign up for the U.S. Army. That's what they did. Okay, and so either you're implying that by signing up for the
Wait. That was my understanding, is that you'd sign up for the military and then you'd be entered in a giveaway. Wasn't that the point?
Also be entered into a competition, hopefully. But that's basically all there is to it, right?
If I had a giveaway in my chat and I created a website,
we'll look at this after.
Go to lycansgiveaway.com, and you click it, and all it does is go to a blank. Actually, no. It doesn't say Lycan's giveaway. Let's say I have my own website. Lycan is the best debater in the goddamn world.com, and you go to that website, and it's just a fucking
false advertising. I'm sorry.
Shut up. And it's just a form. It says nothing about the thing, right? But it's a form to click your twit. To make you fucking follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook, and then give me your email address. And then you hit submit, right? And it just says, thanks for your submission. Just because I failed to make a fucking clean explanation that this is going to that beyond me saying, hey, when you use this command in my chat, it gives you the link and it takes you to a place where you put your information and then you get entered. Again, you have to have the evidence to say they were actually lying. Just because it goes to that page.
Here's the evidence.
Well, I think Lycan might be factually incorrect here, because I think for lotteries, I think you do have to explicitly state like entry requirements and like I understand what the point Lycan is trying to make, like ethically or whatever, but legally you're supposed to, like, I think, explicitly talk about this shit. Oh fuck.
Clicking on the link, you went to an Army recruitment form. There was nothing about a competition. There was no competition, odds, number of winners, or draw dates.
Again, that's bad optics. But you were assuming that on the back end for the Army, they weren't tracking it. That they weren't tracking where the link came from.
So you're gonna go to the extent to say, hopefully.
Does anybody know what this original link was? RTBA? Oh, Lance said no. Rip. I need a new moniker, guys. We need a new name so people don't know who I am.
The hardest part, or the thing that frustrated me, is that it was hard to figure out how to engage when you knew he was, every time he had the multiple, I am against the military because they've done war crimes and the assaults and all these other things. And every time I would address one, he'd say, yeah, but then there's all the other stuff. And I didn't know how to get around that.
Yeah, so what we have to do is we have to figure out the structure of his argument to figure out how it works, and then we have to go through and we've got to disassemble it piece by piece, assuming we disagree with his argument. So what you have to do is you've got to understand, like, okay, you're saying that the military shouldn't advertise on Twitch because of reasons A, B, C, and D. And then you want to go through, well, let's look at A, let's look at B, let's look at C, let's look at D. Now, if you're not aware of that structure in your head when you're going through the argument, then what actually happens is, and this is essentially what he did to you, what actually happens is you say, okay, hey, we're going to go through the reasons why you think this, why you think this shouldn't be on Twitch. Go, okay, well, let's talk about A. You're going to go, after a while arguing A, you're like, oh yeah, what about B, C, or D? And then you say, like, okay, well, let's hop to B. And then when you're on B, you're like, okay, well, what about A, C, and D? You're like, okay, well, here, hold on. Well, what about C? You're like, well, what about A, B, and D? You're like, okay, well, hold on, let's go back to A. And you're like, okay, well, what about B, C, and D? And you're like, okay, wait. Okay, well, What about like C? Like, okay, well, what about A, B, and D again? Well, what about D? Well, what about A, B, and C? Right? This is like the argument that a lot of people will play where they'll bounce around at points that you've already discussed before or haven't discussed yet. And instead of ever actually defending any individual premise, what they do is they just keep bouncing around all of them in the hopes that they could never get pinned down on one. And that's exactly what he did, basically. It's a really effective way of arguing in circles without ever coming to any resolution on a point and always seeming like you have the upper hand. You're essentially doing like an extended version of a Gish Gallop, except constantly throughout an entire debate. Yeah.
Yeah. So in my prep leading up to this, like a lot of those things are ideas that I'm aware of. So I was like, okay, well, a lot of these are systemic problems. So I'm assuming though that if we remove all of these, and I didn't do it effectively, but there was one point in the debate when I was like, okay, cool, let's pretend.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Recruiting.
Wait, you said let's pretend what? Say that one more time.
Like none of those problems exist. There are none of the assaults. There's none of the homelessness after the fact. None of those things he kept like jumping to. I said, what if those don't exist? And then like I think I fucked myself by saying, I mean, okay, I guess you would expect a little bit of PTSD for the ones that have to engage in combat, because at some point the military will have to engage in combat in a way that could be like, I fucked myself there, but I tried to get to the point of, if none of that exists, are you now okay with the military being on Twitch?
Yeah, and this is what you have to do. You have to isolate, like, so you're familiar with the words necessary and the word sufficient, right?
Yes.
Because it sounded like he would bounce between trying to say like, well, this in and of itself is both necessary and sufficient to establish me not wanting the military on Twitch. So like them having committed war crimes or them having had rape on campus. But then other times when you would start to narrow that down, it's like, well, this isn't a good argument, is it? He'd be like, okay, hold on. He would change to, this isn't necessary and sufficient. This is like just one necessary part. And there are other necessary parts as well. And together, all of these are sufficient, right? So you have to what you have to do is you've got to try to narrow it down on every single thing and be like, okay, is this one thing? Is this enough? Is this one thing enough? Is this one thing enough? And then anytime he would say yes, Daniel, it's like, okay, well, let's talk about this one thing. And then if you could rule that out, then you have to get him to move on to the next part. And it's like, okay, well, it's not just one thing. It's a combination of things. It's like, okay, well, what combination of things? You have to get him to define the minimum by which he won't allow them on Twitch, and then see if other organizations can be held to the same scrutiny, because that was his initial argument. He was like, well, if we held other people to the same scrutiny, we wouldn't allow them on. And then you move from there, yeah.
Yeah, I should have, I fucked that one up. What was the other one? No, just after the fact, it takes like 3 seconds after the debate ends and I realize like all of the other points that I could have gone into, like we should have dove in depth to what is systemic versus an inherent thing about the military. And a lot of the shit, almost everything he brought up, except, that one day someone in the military might have to kill another person. Everything he brought up is systemic. Issues with homelessness and drug addiction after the military is an issue of the VA and how we don't properly prepare some military people for life after the military. The problems with sexual assault and harassment are systemic. Mm-hmm. The problems with what other stuff did he bring up? PTSD, again, that's going to be inherent in combat jobs. We're never going to get away from that. But I felt like that sufficiently answers the mail on all of those. It's like, okay, that's a systemic issue that can be fixed, and the military has to exist, and the military has to get people that are young and healthy and able to actually perform the job. So they're going to look for that 18 to 24 demographic, which is prevalent on Twitch. Mm-hmm. But then again, it goes back to the whole thing. He doesn't want them to have a NASCAR team. He doesn't want them to have a football team. He doesn't want them to be shown in a positive light. He said explicitly he doesn't want them working with movies, so they have that kind of exposure.
Yeah, so you have to start you've got to go one thing at a time. That's all you can do. You can't, rather than trying to bounce through 30 million topics, you just have to try to stick on one thing if you can, and then get him to invalidate that one thing, and then move on to the next topic. Because what happens is he just will infinitely hop from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. And I think he knows he's bad faith. Because I asked him yesterday if he wanted to have the conversation, if he wanted to chat about his conversation, and he said no. So I'm pretty sure that he knows that he's kind of approaching that in bad faith. He was probably even surprised when arguing with you. He thought it was going to be a lot easier. So.
Well, so the funny thing is that actually about 5 minutes in, I thought I was fucked, because I was like, I know I can't win this, because that's what he's going to do. Like, he is unhappy with the entire enterprise of the military, and that is, I didn't know how to get around that, but you already talked about that part. So I don't know. It was a frustrating conversation.
Wait, where the fuck did my trophy go? Am I crazy? Did I depot this? Yeah, but
and I don't think he's wrong for the idea of not liking the military. I don't necessarily.
He is.
I think his reasons are wrong, but I think that the idea that someone wouldn't like, You know what? Actually, no, never mind. I'm gonna walk that back. Yeah.
There are
I'm
reasons
trying
to
to-
be critical of like the military or whatever, but like, did he do that dumb thing where he's like China only has 3 bases around the world and the United States has
Yes.
600 military bases? Oh well, China has one ongoing genocide, and to my knowledge, right now, the America is not committing any ongoing genocide. Like you could have started, but then he might have tried to. Well, actually, blah, this is a genocide, blah. But no, it's yeah. I mean, like it was a really, really stupid comparison for him to try to say that with that Chinese shit. That was so cringe. These motherfuckers simp for the CCP and shit so hard, and they pretend they don't. They try to hide their power level so much. It's pretty disgusting.
Oh, what was the other? No, it was.
Oh, I used my trophy at the spawn. I'm an idiot. Never mind.
Oh, I can't be explicitly bad faith. Like that's the other thing. Like I have trouble when I argue. I'll overqualify a lot of like for instance, when I wanted to lay out the scenario of pretend everything is gone that you have a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking shot myself in the foot by then going to the PTSD part, like because I felt like I needed to say that because like that isn't realistic. The idea that there will be in the military, and it's like I know I don't now after the fact I realize I don't need to say that because it hurts my argument.
Yeah,
and
don't ever
I can
volunteer
still-
any information because they're not playing in good faith ever, especially lefties. They're never playing in good faith. So don't do that. Yeah, don't ever undermine your own argument. If they bring it up, then you can address it. But it's better for you to be aware of it and then be ready to deal with it if they bring it up. But don't bring it up. Don't help them. You know, because they're never going to be
Yeah.
helping you. And he was like explicitly bad faith in the majority of that argument. So don't ever don't be charitable like that.
And it's like it's hard for me to even after the fact see the majority of that as bad faith because it's hard for me to not think that's actually what he believes.
Yeah, they might be, but maybe they're just fundamentally bad faith down to the bone.
Bad faith to the bone.
You know?
No. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate you watching it. I appreciate the insight.
Okay, be careful, buddy. Have fun.
Yep. Have a good one.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.